And we're live. All right. So, everybody, welcome. My name's Chris with the Jackass of All Trades. Today is Sunday, January 12th. I got my buddy Sully from Sully Streams. He's a friend of the channel. We like to talk shop every once in a while. Um, with this live stream coming to be, I'm sure he'll be a frequent collaborator. Especially if he's bored on a Sunday and his Patriots aren't in the playoffs right now, so I'm sure he doesn't have much to do on Sundays.
I
So
think that's going to continue for the next few years at least. So
yeah,
it
yeah,
might
and
be
so
around.
yeah, and for those of you who aren't familiar with Sully's stuff, he's I don't want to just say movie reviewer. I don't know if that's the title you want, critic or whatever, but you have a great channel. You're no nonsense, straight to the point. Your reviews aren't 20 minutes long. You don't just sit there and blabber on. You get straight to the point. You sprinkle in some of that Bostonian humor, and I tend to, obviously movies are subjective. I don't agree with you on everything, just like I'm sure you see my reviews and you don't agree with me on everything. But I think for the most part, our tastes are fairly similar. But with that said, what else? What else am I missing? What else should we add?
No, I mean I think that's pretty much it. I appreciate the kind words because I think the rest of my life is pretty much nonsense. So I'll take the no nonsense in the movie review sector of it at least. But no, I'm been doing it for a few years now. Absolutely, obviously love movies and happy to
Yep.
be here with you on this Sunday.
Well, I appreciate it, man. So, what I kind of wanted to do with this is, I mean, there's a million live streams, there's a million YouTube shows, things about movies and that nature. But I don't want to throw anyone under the bus or anything, but you tend to come across a lot of the, I don't want to say obscurist or art house or, people that enjoy the smell of their own farts. But, film's a weird industry because it's like you got the crowd who takes it very seriously. They live their life around it. And,
Yes.
a movie like Captain America is they're going to shit on it no matter what because they don't think it's cinema. It's basically just a video game come to life. And then there's casual folk. I'm sure you talk to people all the time who are like, "Hey, did you just see that new, what movie did we hate? Madam Web," and they think it's all right. And you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, okay." So I mean, I love movies, but I feel like you and me are kind of more of the not lowest common denominator, but for the layman, the everyday person who's like, should I waste my money? Because movies are like $20 a pop nowadays. And that's kind of where I like to go because all our
Yeah.
buddies outside of this in real life are just regular people, work regular jobs.
Yeah.
So I like to sprinkle in a little humor in my reviews and um, let them know if it's worth their time or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to like there's definitely a time and a place for both. I like to have my foot in each door.
Sure.
I do think there are definitely crowds where like you do talk about like a Captain America movie like Winter Soldier, which I think is the best MCU movie. Um, you talk to like the high film crowd that
Yep.
loves like The Brutalist or something, they probably wouldn't even ever bother watching Captain America.
Right. Right.
And then vice versa. I talked to someone that loves the MCU and I'm like, you should try this 3.5 hour epic with an intermission in the middle that's art house. And
Yeah.
they'd be like, there's no way I'm paying to go
Zero
see that.
percent
So
chance.
I honestly think like enjoying movies is way more fun if you open yourself up to both sides. And I actually think figuring out what I don't like is sometimes just as fun as figuring out what I do like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just like engaging in all of it. I actually think great example here, segue, because I've been dying to talk about this movie. Even though I have no connection to the subject matter and the premise was wild, I absolutely loved Better Man.
Yes.
And I think that is one that people are going to be kicking themselves pretty soon when they find it on streaming. And we're like, why the hell didn't I see this on the biggest screen possible?
Right. And I think the problem is, especially in the States, because
Yes.
I was actually going to be one of the news stories I was going to bring up is that it just bombed miserably in the
Bombing.
box
Yep.
office. I think it finished number 12, made $1
Yep.
million in the States. And I think when I was watching it, I was like, I couldn't believe how good it was.
Yeah.
Um, like you and me were talking before we went live, and it was like 2024 was actually wasn't the best year for movies. And there's many reasons. A big part of it was the strike that happened in 2023. A lot of things got pushed back. A lot of things just completely got scrapped. But it definitely affected the industry, and the
Yeah.
quality that came to be was a direct result of it. But when a movie like Better Man came out, I heard early buzz about it, especially from people who saw it last year. I didn't get a chance to see it until this past week. And it blew my mind because one, I didn't know. I remember Robbie Williams from like my teenage years. I know they tried to make him a thing in the States and it just didn't work. But I don't know any of his songs. I don't know any of his story. So for me, like when I saw the Bob Dylan movie, I was like, I already know a lot,
Right.
especially if you're into to music at all, and you read a little bit. Like I've read a couple things about him, and I've listened to his music for a long time. My dad was a Woodstock hippie, so like I
Yeah.
grew
And
up
more
on.
obviously, American icon.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly, exactly. So
easy
it's like
sell.
the information about him is anywhere,
Yeah.
just a simple Google search. But with Robbie Williams, I was more intrigued because I was like, I know he's a huge pop star, like outside of the states, but in the
Yeah.
states, like, yeah, I mean, people be like, wait, do you mean Robin Williams? It's
I
just
heard that a lot when I was telling people to go see this.
yeah,
So,
yeah. So and then making the creative, unique choice of making them a CGI chimpanzees. It was, at first I was like, I don't know, this is really weird, but the CGI was actually fairly solid in the movie,
yeah.
and I ended up enjoying it way more. I was way more emotionally invested in that movie than I
Oh,
expected
yeah.
to be.
I just think like it is a tough sell. Like I'm not beating it over the head of anybody being like, why is no one going to see this? It's very obvious. Like you
Right,
said, no one really knows who he is in the States. And then when you get done explaining to people what it's about, you have to also that when you finally have them on board and you're like, okay, maybe they'll go see it. Then you have to be like, one more thing. It's a monkey for some reason.
right,
It's not the easiest one to convince someone that, I mean, that it's going to be good, let
yeah,
alone like, all right, I'll go check it out. But the fact that it's good, it sounds like you're pulling their leg. But yeah,
yeah.
I thought it was awesome. This is a random offshoot that I'm thinking too, though. I'm wondering what you consider. Do you consider it a 2024 movie or a 2025 movie?
See, I hate that because
Yeah.
it was a 2024 movie. I think they were putting it out for awards season. It's always a confusing thing. Like I'm watching the season finale of Landman tonight, and it's like that
Hmm.
was a 2024 show, but it ends in 2025, so I couldn't put it on any sort of list or anything like that. But yeah, I mean it's a 2024 movie.
I see. I go with 2025. That's my
Okay, fair
hot
enough.
take. Is because
Fair enough.
I've always decided it's too confusing that I go by if there's something that had like a limited release or festivals or whatever. I go by the year of when it was like the most amount of people had the chance to see it. So when it
Right.
goes wide to theaters is when I've just like done a hard and fast rule on it at this point because I'm sick of trying to figure it out.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I mean I'm sure when there's like middle of the year, these are the best movies I've seen so far.
Right.
I mean, if I'm thinking back to 2024's January, I remember I remember not watching a good movie until like Dune 2 came out. And I watched a lot in January and February of last year. It was just
I actually
weird.
think this is the best January that I can remember
Yeah.
because Better Man's good, Wallace and Gromit's good. I heard that Wolfman is better than
Yeah, I've
expected
actually
at
heard some
least.
yeah, I've heard some
So
pretty positive things about that. I like Lee Winnell, so
I love Lee Winnell.
I
Upgrade
think
is one of my
Upgrade is one of
personal
the more
oh,
underrated sci-fi movies in the last 10
perfect.
years. So,
Yeah, it's an
yeah.
awesome one.
And what's funny, man, is just with the state of everything with AI and whatnot, that movie actually it's more relevant than I think it was even intending to be if you go
Yeah.
back and watch it. So,
I
all right,
think
cool. Well,
my to cut you off for a sec,
oh, you're good.
my easy sell, if anyone hasn't seen Upgrade, is I always say that it's the best Venom movie because it's
Okay.
technically like a
You know what? I've
some other
actually heard that
source.
before.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I've
it's
heard that
just
before.
roll with that. It's
Oh,
such a good movie.
yeah, those Venom movies. Anyway, we'll I'm
Yeah,
sure we'll touch on that in a little bit.
yeah,
So I wanted to kick things off, talk a little news of the week. Um, this is the biggest story, obviously, is this right here.
yep,
So obviously the fires that are happening in Los Angeles and around the area, pretty brutal. And so my thoughts, prayers, all that goes out to everybody out there. It's pretty awful.
That's
And
terrible.
it seems, and from what I understand, I still have friends and family out there, and from what I'm hearing is that these might actually be getting worse before they get better. I haven't really seen any updates on what it is, but apparently some more strong winds are blowing in this next week, so this could be just the tipping point.
Yeah, I definitely have some buddies out there, and they've had to evacuate to. I think they kind of went down to San Diego.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, just absolutely brutal what's happening over there right now.
Yeah,
It's like so hard to get good information on it, honestly, being on the
it
complete
is,
opposite
man.
side of the coast.
Yeah, yeah,
I
it
feel
is.
like every day I'm on Twitter and it says like it's actually this percent contained, everything's looking up, and then the next report will be like stuff is as worse as it's been.
Yeah,
So I have no idea what's going on. I'm sure no one out there really knows what's going on either. So
yeah.
yeah,
And if anyone
definitely
who's
thinking of them.
watching has any info, obviously that's good to hear. But yeah, it seems like the death tolls kind of starting to go up. I saw something on Twitter the other, or X, whatever. I still call it Twitter.
Me too.
Where a news report was out there and it looks like they just like the camera just kind of skimmed over a dead body and they didn't even realize it.
Oh
So
man.
yeah, no, it's awful. And I remember when I moved from there in late 2008, like right before 2009, and we had some pretty bad wildfires. I think the summer before that, but I was working in Warner Brothers Studios at the time, and when you drove in to the station, you had to put your windshield wipers on to get all the ash off your
Oh
windows.
whoa.
It was just
Yeah, that's
falling out of the
crazy.
sky, kind of like a. It was almost like a movie, like Dante's Inferno or something. So I can only
Yeah.
imagine what they're going through right now. So, I mean, I don't really have much else to say about that other than pretty awful thing, and
Mhm.
hope everyone's staying safe. I hope that some of this gets resolved. It's pretty wild to
Yeah.
be so far removed from it, but basically working for an industry that takes place in there, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. So let's see here. So what we were mentioning earlier. So here's the gist for the box office from this past weekend. It looks like Den of Thieves 2 took the number one spot with 15.5 mil. We're gonna touch on that here in a little bit. Were you able to see it?
Yeah, I saw it earlier today with my dad, actually.
Okay. All right. I'm curious what your dad thought about that.
Yeah.
uh, and then we have Mufasa is I guess once again above that. It seems like Disney was playing some pretty dirty tricks with Sonic on that. I don't know if you read into that at all. I mean, obviously, Sonic is winning in the box office, but I think Disney tried to make it as hard as possible for Sonic to be as successful as it is.
Yeah, I didn't see anything too crazy outside of them kinda seemed like they were fudging the numbers a little bit.
Fudging the
Um,
numbers, and from my understanding, like all the big, the XD theaters, the big theaters in every theater was only showing Mufasa, and Sonic
mm.
was just delegated to the theaters for those movies that have been out for a little bit longer.
Yeah,
Uh,
I did not end up seeing Mufasa. I didn't see the live action Lion King either.
you
It's just
didn't?
I did not. So it's not really my bag. I don't really
Yeah,
want to support like it's kind of like they're out of ideas, so they're just going to live
yeah,
action everything. I'm much more curious to see what happens once they're out of movies to do that too, and
yeah,
kind of see what
yeah. Because I mean, what they got?
they've got
What do we got?
Moana.
Yeah, Moana, and then Lilo and Stitch is dropping this summer.
Yeah,
Snow White, which I mean,
batten down the hatches.
yeah, man, that's one of those movies that if it's not great, it's
Mhm.
just gonna be a firestorm, especially on YouTube.
Even if
Uh,
it is great, I think it's screwed.
Fair,
But
totally
we'll
fair.
see what happens. Yeah,
That's totally fair. Yeah, that's a movie that I couldn't care less to watch. I
yeah,
mean, I'm gonna see it, obviously. I got little kids and I got 2 daughters, so, they're gonna strap in and watch that, but I'm good.
yeah, yeah. I feel the same.
Um, okay, let's see. Yeah, let me pull up what see. You weren't seeing what I was seeing. There we go. All right, so then it looks like Sonic is at number 3, barely missing. I'm curious what's going to finish out higher. I mean, Sonic to me, you didn't miss anything. Miss not watching Mufasa. It was
Yeah.
it was brutal, and I'm sure you're. I know you frequent X. There's people posting clips of one of the songs and they're saying it's probably the worst song ever made
Yes, yeah.
in a musical. And they're not
Yeah.
wrong. It's pretty brutal. But the movie itself, I mean, it was over 2 hours, I think,
Mhm.
and it just dragged, man. It was like it could have told that story in an hour and 20 minutes.
I'll also say I'm a little biased because 'cause I'm lifelong massive Sonic guy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I gathered that from your review.
yeah, so I definitely want the Sonic franchise to succeed a lot more than Mufasa
Me
personally,
too,
but
man. Those movies are just fun. It kind of
yeah.
makes me feel like a kid again watching them, and the kids love them. I mean, I've taken my kids to see them, and they think they're the greatest thing. So,
I'll
I
pretty
mean,
much support them from here on out ever since they listened to the fans and did that redesign way
dude,
back
that was
when,
awesome.
so, yeah,
That was awesome. It was like, hey, every once in a while, the fans are right. Disney could
yeah.
probably
It does not happen
be
very
here there.
often.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And it's funny going back watching the other Sonic. It's like, man, you could have made a horror movie out of that character
Dude,
design.
we would not have been getting 3 movies if they rolled with that.
I 100% agree.
Yeah,
I just don't see it happening. And what I love about the Sonic movies is like the cast is just out of control good.
yeah,
Jim Carrey retired and then he came back. He's like, "Oh, I'm doing it for the money," but it's like you got Keanu Reeves in the new one too.
yeah.
He was the perfect shadow. So,
Yeah, he was. He
um,
was.
yeah, the third was my favorite, bar none.
Yeah, me
I think it
too.
was. I think I saw a lot of people like the second one. I thought the second one was fine. I enjoyed the first more, probably just because it was the first time we got a good video game adaptation in like what feels like forever,
Yeah.
especially movie wise. The TV series seem like they're kind of catching up with Last of Us and Fallout. So, and then I saw that. We'll talk about that later. But let's see. Let's round this top 10 out. So we got Moana 2, obviously a gigantic hit, even though. But you didn't care much for that movie, right?
No,
No,
I think the first Moana is one of their best in the
me too.
last. I can't remember. Was it in the last decade? Was the first one? It had to have been,
I
right?
think it was 2016,
Okay,
2015,
so
something like
yeah,
that.
close
Yeah.
enough. Pretty much 9 years. Second one, I feel like it was just a retread, and it definitely showed when we heard that it was supposed to be a TV series.
Yeah. Yeah. There were moments in there where you're like, I feel like they wanted like this expanded somewhere else.
Or
And they just
like
never
every
explored it.
20 minutes, it was clear that like an episode was ending.
Yeah. Yeah. It
You
totally
know?
felt that way. And the bad guy in there, I was like, it came through and I was sitting there watching. I was kind of confused as to what the real threat was.
Yeah,
It was never really fully established. Like they mentioned it, and then all of a sudden they were fighting it, and I was like, oh, so that's the villain, huh?
yeah.
So
It was just kind of
yeah, it
misguided.
felt like a lot of stuff was cut out, and a lot of things just weren't explored. And then the
Yeah,
songs, I couldn't tell you one of the songs when the
yeah.
first one
No,
came out. When the first one came out, my daughter was real little, and all my house was her singing songs from that movie. So
people like to clown him a little bit, but that movie really showed Lin Manuel Miranda's worth because you
yeah.
were missing him.
Well, it's funny because he chose to do Mufasa instead, and he
I didn't even
chose
know he did that. Actually, I
yeah,
forgot.
yeah, he did the music in that, and those songs, I couldn't tell you any of those, so I'm like, "Man, you should have
Yeah,
just stuck with Moana,
yeah.
put out some better bangers." Um, yeah, so then we got, A Complete Unknown. I think you and I both enjoyed it.
Before we move on to that, just want to say very
Yep.
happy to see Nosferatu in the top three.
Yeah, man. Oh, I totally skipped over that, didn't I?
Yeah, but loved
Yeah,
that one.
Nosferatu. Yeah, me too, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. It's just
Yeah,
it's so funny to me how divisive that movie is. Uh
yeah. I was pretty surprised by that, to be honest.
Were you? I think I put it in your comments when you put your review out. I got a screener, maybe 2 3 weeks early,
Yeah.
and when I watched it, I was like, man, I love this movie, but I was like, I have no idea how mainstream audiences are going
Well,
to.
you know what? You're right in that. I think I mean more that I wouldn't expect it to be divisive in against Robert Eggers fans, but anyone
Sure.
that's walking into it being like, "Hey, do you want to go see the new like sick vampire movie?"
Oh,
might be like,
yeah.
"What the
I
hell did
hear
I
it's
just watch?"
great, and then people walk in with expectations from word of mouth and having no idea who Robert Eggers is.
Right, not knowing
Yeah.
what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's the truth right there. So, anyway, so number 6, we got A Complete Unknown. Nice to see that. made a little chunk of change.
Yeah,
And I was actually, I don't want to say I was surprised by that movie because I think James Mangold's a great director,
he rocks.
especially when it comes to the biopics. Because I don't know if you're like me, but I'm so sick of the musical artist biopic because it's just
Yeah.
like the same formula in every single movie. But he tackled it different. He didn't go through his entire life. He just picked a certain period of time. He got awesome performances out of pretty much everybody. Told a fun little story, and it's not. I don't know if 10 years from now I'll sit back and be like, "Oh yeah, that was a great movie." But at the time I was watching it, I was entertained. I really didn't have too much to complain about when I saw it.
Yeah, no, I liked it. I've always been, or since since the first Dune, Chalamet won me over. And so I've been liking what he's been doing, and I thought he
Yeah.
did really well in this, especially with the everything that was required of him with all the singing
Hmm.
and playing
Yeah.
the guitar. The guy that really blew me away in this one, which obviously, I'm a big fan, and having a tiny bit of screen time only helps it. But loved Boyd Holbrook's Johnny
Yeah.
Cash in this movie.
That was great. And I read something that said that James Mangold initially wanted Joaquin Phoenix to play that role.
I'm glad that didn't happen.
Yeah. 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 No, I mean, Boyd Holbrook's great. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix is obviously great, but, he's,
I've actually never been like a massive Boyd Holbrook guy. Like I thought he's been good in everything. He's never done anything. He's never done anything where I'm not like, that's not Boyd Holbrook. That's the performer. That's the actor. The character he's trying to portray. I'm always just like, oh, that's Boyd Holbrook. This
yep.
is one where even though they just made his hair black and gave him colored contact lenses, I was like, I can't believe that's him.
Yeah. 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 No, that's it. That I think 2024 was also the year of like the transformative performance from Colin Farrell to Bill Skarsgård to even Boyd Holbrook, even though he was in the movie for what, like 3 minutes.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm convinced that's not Skarsgård. I can't get over that.
dude, yeah, I was like, that's gonna be a Hollywood conspiracy theory at some
I
point.
need to see the behind the scenes, like him in the makeup chair. I just
Right.
can't. I can't wrap my head around that one.
I can't either, man. That was when you first hear the voice, even you're like, did they
Yeah,
do something to it? Is that him? But I've seen video clips of him doing the voice, and it's pretty
I haven't seen
pretty
that,
spot
but
on.
I know they were all coming out saying that he did, like it was all him.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they're gonna mix it and make it sound a little bit more
They
echoey.
said they had to boost the volume up because
Yeah,
since it's not his real voice, he can't do it that loudly.
right.
But
And it's not like Christian Bale in the Dark Knight series where Christopher Nolan said that he put a filter on, but I was like, he just sounds like he's yelling. I mean, there's so
right,
many parodies about
it's
it.
a yelling filter.
Yeah. Yeah. It's uh that was one of those things where it's like you can't convince me just because of the character design too and the makeup they put on him. I mean, it's wild.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel the same way about Colin Farrell and the Penguin. He was just
Hmm.
spectacular in that. Did you watch the series?
Yeah, I definitely
Okay.
dug it. I mean, I'm a massive Sopranos guy, and it
Me too.
kind of
Yeah.
felt like not parody, but it was kind of there was definitely some comedy in there, but
Yep.
it kind of just felt more like a goofy comic book Gotham Sopranos.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the best way because I
Yeah.
think Sopranos is the best show ever made, personally.
You
But
you and me both, dude. That's my favorite
yeah,
show ever. And
yeah,
the finale is quite a divisive topic, but I always
yes,
thought the finale was great. So
yeah, I like it. I understand
yeah.
the pushback, but I like
Oh,
it.
100%. 100%
There's
understand.
also what was it? There was that you ever watch BoJack Horseman?
Oh yeah. Mhm.
There was like I absolutely adored that gag they did in there with what was it like Aaron Paul's character was like making out with the studio executive's
Y-
daughter or something, and the
yes.
only way he could climb out the window was using the reel from the finale of The Sopranos, and it like cut off the
Yeah.
last 20 seconds of it or something. I
Yep.
was
I
like, that was
remember that
genius.
vividly. That's so funny, dude. Um, Sorry, I'm trying to post this at the same time. I
No,
hate
do your
being on my
thing.
phone during these things. Uh, yeah, yeah. So like it sounds because I loved Penguin. I guess because I didn't love the Batman, and I know that's a hot take.
Yo, I love the Batman.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't love it. So when the series was announced, I was like, oh, this is probably just some David Zaslav tax write off or something that he's doing because
Yeah.
who knows what's going on over there at Warner Brothers. Um, but when the series first came out, I was like, whoa, that was 10 times better than I could have ever imagined it being. And I felt like it was just so well written and so well acted that I just didn't really. And then it was cool because I think the problem that Hollywood has so much nowadays is they always try to make villains likable. And in this
Dude.
movie, it was like Oz was kind of likable at the beginning, almost like the anti-hero sort of feel at the beginning of
Yeah.
the movie or
Then just
of the
full
show.
then just
And then by
full
the end,
total
he's just
dirt bag.
full garbage.
Yeah.
There's just an awful, awful guy. And
Yeah.
I like that. They didn't try to, there was moments where you're just like, you sympathize with him, you empathize
Yeah.
with him, but at the end of the day, the dude just is a piece of shit. And
I mean, that was the main problem with all those Sony Spider-Man-less movies.
I know.
They would take iconic villains to get your butt in a seat, and they would just find someone that's worse than them that would make the villain want to like kind of be the hero of that
Right.
particular story. It was terrible.
And what an injustice they did to Craven because that dude's like one of Spider-Man's best villains.
I didn't even watch the movie yet, but I
Oh, you
love
haven't?
but I love
What?
Craven the Last Hunt, like the actual comic. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And
I need you
I
to I
knew
need you to watch that, dude,
yeah,
because it's
is it out on digital yet?
I think it's releasing this upcoming week.
Okay,
I
yeah. I'll
saw that
check it
they were
out.
just like, yeah, we didn't make any money on this. It bombed
Yeah.
miserably.
Yeah, just
Um,
push it out.
yeah, let's just get it out.
Cut our losses. See if it does. See if people get a laugh from it on digital.
Yeah, so how that was actually my question to you. Do you get like a movie and you're like, I just have no interest in going to watch this. I don't want to put
Yeah.
myself through it and then put my fans through watching me
Well,
review it or
I'll say this. Not that this particularly pertains to Craven itself. I think Craven was legitimately there was other movies I was seeing. I try to just put out like one long movie review a week. So I try to go
uh
to like the best thing. And I can't remember even what was coming out the same week as Craven. I don't think it was Nosferatu, but it was pretty
uh,
close. Um,
oh, it was the Lord of the Rings movie.
I didn't see that either, but
Oh,
I think it was,
it was a bad week of movies, dude.
yeah, I think it was like I was hyped up from Sonic the week before. I think I might have just done some Netflix thing, some streaming thing before that week. I can't even remember, but I've kind of done this thing now where I won't really get there. I won't feel that way before I see the movie.
Uh-huh.
Um, but if I walk out of a movie and it's like a 2.5 out of 5 or 3 out of 5, like kind of like I'm glad I saw it once, I guess, but I'm never going to think about it ever again type of
Right.
movie. There's only so much I can say, and I've said that a million times about different movies, that I'd almost rather me think a movie's like 1 out of 5.
Sure.
I'd be much more interested in talking about that. So there's definitely some times where I'm going to put out a review, but it's the most like 2.5 out of 5 movie ever, unless I feel like that'll go against the norm. Like if everyone thinks it's kind of then I don't think there's really that much I can add to the discussion, and I'm not going to enjoy filming it, like and discussing that review. So honestly, it's like the 2.5 out of, like, to be perfectly honest, that fits perfectly into what I'm going to be talking about later with Den of Thieves 2. Um, but uh, but yeah, I find myself much more interested in talking about polarizing movies or like fantastic movies. I mean, who doesn't love talking about a great movie?
Sure.
But something like that.
That makes total sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's funny, man, because did you see Borderlands?
unfortunately.
Okay.
And I'm
So
a massive fan of the games. I
yeah, me
love
too.
two. Yeah.
Me too. And I put a review out on it, and I got so many comments from people that are like, "You need to play the game for this to make sense." And I was like, "I did play the game. That's
Yeah. It
kind of
doesn't
part
make
of the
any
reason I
sense.
hated this movie so much."
Yeah.
'Cause
You
the
might like it
casting,
more if you didn't.
yeah, the
Yeah.
casting's just so off.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress. All right, so number 7, it looks like we got Wicked, just a big box office surprise, I think, of the last couple months.
Yeah.
I watched your review. It seems like you liked it, but you didn't love it.
I liked it. I think there's a part of me also just thinking about how much of it is window dressing in the sense that this whole part one is longer than the Broadway show.
Sure.
Um, I do understand there are some places to flesh out characters, which I liked.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. I don't think I'm really. I might never see it again,
Okay.
but I enjoyed it. I mean, my wife hasn't seen it yet, so actually maybe I'll maybe I'll watch it
Yeah.
one more time. But
That's funny, man. So I had the early screening and I took my daughter to it. She's a big musical fan. She's always loved musicals. And
yeah,
I've never really cared much about musicals, if I'm being honest. And I was gobsmacked. I absolutely loved it.
yeah,
But I guess that's just kind of the state we live in these days. Like I just had zero expectations. I didn't want to watch the movie. I wasn't even planning on reviewing the movie. And then
hmm
when I watched it, I was just like, wow. But I guess it was just the production of everything. And I'm sure you've seen how insufferable that press tour was. So
Oh my,
that added another layer of me not caring at all
yeah,
about that movie. I was like, man, the the stuff that's happening behind the scenes during the press tour, the things that these ladies are saying, I was like, it seemed like a perfect storm of a bomb, but the word of mouth was there, and it ended up being a massive, massive movie. So I
yeah.
agree
I'm
with you.
I'm I'm holding space for that press tour to be gone forever.
Yeah,
So
but we got to deal with it again in 10 more months.
I know. Yeah, they're already gearing up again.
Yeah, yeah, I was blown away, man. It made my top 5 of
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
past
I
year.
liked it, and I saw the musical
I
production when I
never
was a
saw the
kid.
musical. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really liked it. It's a good story. I will say,
I've
though,
been Go ahead.
well, just at this stage, kind of what I'm craving out of musical this isn't a biopic, obviously, but, like, musicals in general, I'm really looking for something that I'm not expecting. I feel like I expected everything that I saw in Wicked.
Fair enough.
So for me personally, like 10 out of 10 times I'm rewatching Better Man. I know I sound like a broken record right now, but
No, that's
um
totally fair. Some of those
yeah,
songs were excellent in that movie.
yeah. But no, Wicked's good. I liked it. It deserves the cash that it's getting.
Okay, fair enough. And then let's see, we got Baby Girl, didn't see it.
Me either, actually.
Yeah, and the Brutalist, I haven't seen that, but I haven't it's playing nowhere near me,
It
so
just came to my area this week, so I haven't had the chance to watch it yet. But
okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
everyone, again, it's like one of those things. All the cinephiles say it's great. I'm sure casual audiences aren't going to vibe with it, but I'm looking
well, I
forward
mean,
to
three and
kind
a
of
half hours is a hard sell,
that's a really
um,
hard sell.
no matter how good the movie
The
is.
90-minute movie's dead, unfortunately, which are
I
some
know,
of
I
my
don't
favorites.
understand that either. I'm actually looking forward to the new Mel Gibson movie because I think it's like 85 minutes,
Is
and
that the Wahlberg one?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
mean, it looks silly, but, say what you will about Mel Gibson, it's like a South Park episode. It's like, I think there's one where they're like, "Say what you will about Mel Gibson, but the son of a bitch knows story structure."
I mean,
Because
I'll take anything he does behind the camera. I still stand by. For me personally, the best war movie ever made is Hacksaw Ridge.
dude,
So
such a fantastic movie.
yeah. So
Um,
I mean, I'm definitely gonna watch it. Obviously, there's some back and forth Wahlberg bias just being from Boston.
sure,
So
sure.
I'll take a 90-minute thrill ride.
Yeah, yeah, I don't and I heard he's pretty good in it, so
He
anyway,
shaved his real head, so
yeah. Yeah, that's actually when I'm watching the trailers, that's the thing that distracts me the most because you can clearly see his hairline, so
yeah,
it just looks like a
yes.
really bad haircut.
Terrible haircut.
Yeah, and then rounding out the 10 is, Gladiator 2. I know you were high on that. I liked it when I first saw it, but then I saw it again, and I kind of agreed with a lot of people on it. It was one of those movies where I felt, the it didn't have the magic of the first one. It was just basically a retreading of the first movie, but I know you loved it, so
I think yeah, I really liked it. I will say though, as time goes by, I'm very concerned to watch it again. I don't
don't
know,
do it. If
like
you liked it, just keep
I was
that
gonna
memory
say,
alive,
I
man.
don't think I'm gonna watch it again.
Yeah,
I'm
keep
a
that memory alive.
huge I'm a huge Ridley Scott guy through the highs and lows. Like I got a lot of heat for this when I put out my when I put out my full Alien franchise ranking, like I still rank Prometheus and Covenant above Romulus
Me too.
personally.
Me too.
Um, and he can do no wrong in my eyes, kind of. Like I still see a lot of really good stuff in his work. I love The Last Duel. That was my favorite movie of the year that it came out.
Fantastic movie. Very
Yeah,
underrated Ridley Scott
very
film.
underrated. And So yeah, I mean, I liked kind of just seeing him. He's definitely getting old and kind of just throwing shit at the wall and getting more ridiculous. So I don't think I'm going to watch it again, but I did enjoy myself a lot with that
Fair
first,
enough.
especially with that Denzel role. So
Yeah. Yeah, the problem I had with the Denzel role, and this is spoilers for anybody who's planning on seeing it, but I I just thought I thought it was so funny that like he basically had Oliver Reed's role from the first
yeah,
movie throughout most of it, and then he ends up being the main antagonist. And
yeah,
then when he gets killed at the end, he looked surprised that a 70-year-old dude got his ass whooped by like a 25-year-old muscle-clad gladiator. I
yeah.
was like,
That
but
was a
you know, there,
great that was a great arm chop though.
yeah, it
I
was.
did
It
enjoy
was.
that.
It was. I mean, there was definitely moments there, you know, I appreciate Ridley Scott. He's
Yeah.
and I don't know if you saw, but you know, Tarantino's planning his last movie or whatever, and someone brought that up to Ridley Scott, and he was like, "Just shut up, get over yourself, and make more movies." I was like, "Yeah,
I
that's what I
which
like to
I
hear.
love, which I
I love it.
love.
I
I'd
love it too."
rather have like, obviously, I'd love another perfect Ridley Scott movie,
Sure.
but if it comes between him making only one movie for the rest of his life so that he can think he can try to, like, make it perfect, or just taking some risks and throwing one out there once a year as a Hail Mary, which he's been doing,
Yeah.
I'd rather see that personally.
Yeah. Me too. I mean, Napoleon didn't work for me at all.
No, it was fine. I didn't
It was
hate
fine.
it,
I
but,
didn't think it was a bad movie. It was a very well made movie. I just
yeah.
thought there were so many plot inconsistencies with it, and then yeah, just some of the character work. Like
The
Gladiator 2,
historians were on him for
I
that one.
know, but he had a great point on that too, where he's like, "How do you know? Were you alive back then?" So he's turned into a curmudgeonly old Englishman, and I love it. Like
Honestly, I just want him to keep making movies for those press tours. He always
he's
drops
so
some
great, man.
gems.
They're
Yeah.
great. Yeah, and
Did you see he put Blade Runner at the top 4 of his letterbox top 4? Like, someone asked him
no, but
his
that's awesome.
yeah, he putting his own movies on his Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, that's like Iron Maiden walking out on stage with Iron Maiden t-shirts, like, they're the only band that can do that. He's the only director that I'd be like, "Alright," you know, he doesn't sound like a pretentious douche, he just does it because
Yeah,
he's Ridley Scott.
yeah.
But, I mean, I'd put Blade Runner up towards there too, I love that
I
movie.
love that movie, yeah.
Yeah. You know, you should make a list of, like, your most underrated, Ridley Scott movies because Last Duel is definitely one of them. Have you ever seen Matchstick Men?
I actually haven't. I own it,
Oh,
weirdly enough,
dude. Yeah,
but I
watch
haven't
that,
seen
it's a
it.
great
Yeah,
movie.
and I
Very
love
underrated.
Cage.
Yeah, nice twists and turns. Cage is awesome. Sam Rockwell just kills it in that movie. So yeah, that's a gem of Ridley Scott's.
I need to get a T-shirt though that said like I was supporting Nick Cage even in the early 2000s.
Uh
You
huh.
know, like even during the Ghost Rider and Bad Lieutenant phase.
Uh huh.
Which I think Bad Lieutenant might be up
Dude,
there
that
with my
movie's
most
awesome.
underrated Nick Cage movie.
Yeah, I put that up there. I mean, Pig has been getting a lot of talk lately. I
Love
always said that's one of Nick
love
Cage's most
Pig.
underrated movies. I
That
think
Pig is the
Sagacity.
movie. Pig's the movie that I make people watch if they don't think they like Nick Cage.
Yeah, yeah. Don't show him Long Legs. That was Long Legs was actually one of my biggest disappointments of this
That was a
past year.
disappointment for me too. The
Yeah.
marketing did a great job,
Man,
but
they did. They really
yeah.
did. And I mean, there were some people that put it on their best of list of the year, and you know, I don't fault them for it. It was a well-made movie. I didn't mesh with a lot of what was happening in that movie. And then it kind of turned into that supernatural element towards the end that just
I
kind
thought
of
that was kind of a cop out.
yeah, it was a cop out. It was hard to buy from everything else that was laid out in that movie, but you know, I don't think it's a bad film by any means. I
I
just
think you look at the screenplay or watch
the
Hereditary,
screenplay was
it's
probably
like,
the screenplay was probably fantastic.
oh, I'm sure. But I'm like, you look at the execution of something like Hereditary instead, and I was like, how could you think that this
Yeah.
stacks up? But
Yeah.
that's how
It's
you that's how you creep in a supernatural aspect correctly.
yeah, I agree. I agree. All right, so I wanted to move on. We'll talk. We talked that. Oh, so there was one thing I did want to talk about. Did you see? And now we're gonna play the speculation game. But did you see Will Smith posted a Instagram post about how you know he was initially offered the Neo role, and
Yes.
it was people are like, what does this mean? And some people are, it means nothing, or he's going to be in the next Matrix movie. So I just wanted to gauge your thoughts on that. What your where your speculation brain is heading.
So I'll just say this first off, though, as someone that absolutely hated the last Matrix
Oh,
movie,
I'm right there with you.
hated it.
Hated it.
So I'm not like
Unnecessary, no reason for that movie to exist.
I am not someone that's fiending for more,
Me neither.
unfortunately, even though the
Me neither.
first one is iconic.
Yeah.
It's so good. Like I rewatched it again a couple years ago, and it's just like such still to this day, I think one of the most visually stunning movies I've ever seen. And I'm just such a big sci-fi head. But um, the Will Smith thing, you can't convince me. Like I'll bet my life savings that's for a Super Bowl ad. Like that is not for a
Yeah.
movie. I just don't think.
Okay.
Um, I
You
mean,
might be right.
he's widely talked about it in the past that he was offered it, right?
Yeah, he was offered it and he chose Wild Wild West because he thought that
Great
was
decision.
a better
Yeah.
career choice.
um, yeah, not I mean, maybe it is a movie because he's never like it's the same thing with how Matt Damon would talk about how he was supposed to be an Avatar and he like
Yeah,
passed on like $250 million basically because he was offered like some of the box office money from it. But um, Will Smith's talked about that a couple times in the past, so maybe he is at a point where, let's be honest, he's still not at the same popularity he was pre-slap.
yeah,
So maybe he is looking for like attach me to a well loved or not, I won't say well loved, attach me to a well loved movie,
franchise, yeah.
like the first Matrix. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think it's a Super Bowl ad, but
Yeah, you know what? I think you might be onto something right there.
yeah. I
So
mean,
the
do you
other
think
thing
it's
I
a
wanted
movie?
what's that?
Do you think it's a movie?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I
Yeah.
mean, Hollywood is so bankrupt creatively these
It's
days.
weird though, because the last Matrix, they had like a 20-minute gimmick of making fun of studio executives rehashing the same
Yeah, they
shit.
did. It
So
was so
it,
meta, the last Matrix.
it almost feels like even though I didn't like that movie, it would be like a disservice to all that entire part of the screenplay to
Yeah,
do more. But
yeah.
we've seen crazier things.
It'd be like, you watch The Boys, the show on Amazon
Yes.
Prime. So, uh, they have like 80 different things in development now, and I'm like, "You guys have become the joke that you were making from the beginning of
Uh,
this
dude,
show."
I've been saying that. They
They have, like,
tried
a
to
Mexico version coming out. They got it's too much. They oversaturated it, and they became the joke that they were
they
telling.
prided themselves off being the anti-MCU and then they just did the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and what'd you think of this past season? I hated it, and I got a ton of shit for it, but I was like, "Look, guys, my big problem with it, it was like, they were almost taking things and making them gross for the sake of shock value, I guess. Like,
Yes.
what when they had those previously to this last season, it was kinda like, "Oh, snap." And like, this time I was like, "Dude, turn it off. I don't even wanna
Yeah.
watch this anymore."
Yeah. It
Yes.
I was fine with the most recent
Okay.
season. It's definitely the weakest though.
Yeah.
And you
Okay.
can
I
tell
like
that
the setup. I
okay,
thought the last 2 episodes were actually really good. It
yeah.
put something into motion, which I'm real interested to see how they finish it out. But there were so many filler episodes that I was just like, it didn't have the same it didn't hit the same for me, I
I'll
guess.
just say that it's very telling, and I completely agree with this decision because I think they're overstaying their welcome a bit. But it's very telling when the guys that made it were like, "No, we're not going to stop at like season 5. Like we're going to keep going and going." And then like a week later,
They're
the
like,
an
"Yeah,
announcement went out being like, "Actually, season 5 is the last
this is the
season."
last one." Yeah. Yeah, pretty telling for sure. Okay, so, the last bit of news I wanna talk about is did you see this was humorous to me. So Alien Romulus said that what's
Oh
his name
yeah,
came out and said that he fixed the controversial CGI for home release, and it's so much better now. But I've seen it side by side, and I'm like, which one is supposed
right.
to be better? It doesn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was curious if you saw caught a bit of that and what your thoughts were on it.
So I'm the wrong guy to ask about this because I'm kind of down on Romulus to begin with. Like I
You and me both.
liked it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I liked it and I'm a massive Alien fan. Like I catch me on the right day of the week and I'll say it the first Alien's the best horror movie ever. I'm kind of stuck between that and The Thing, honestly.
yeah. That's easy for me,
But
thing, but I
yeah.
totally agree with you.
But I think this Romulus, I think, was the most creatively bankrupt entry in the franchise yet. I think it borrowed and picked and choose, and I think anyone that was praising like, let's say, like, the hybrid scene in that,
Yeah.
um, clearly didn't watch, like, Resurrection or whatever, 'cause
Yeah.
like, the most interesting thing that they thought, "Oh, well, they did this cool thing."
That
I'm
was
like, "Well,
exactly what happened in
that's from a
Resurrection.
different one as well."
Written by Joss Whedon.
So it didn't I actually forgot that.
Yeah.
Great behind the back basketball shot, though. But, um, I don't like I don't see any difference. Like, it didn't I already thought, like, it was kind of a weird decision to do this to begin with. I know people already have, like, an uncanny valley thing with kinda, like, bringing back deceased actors, and,
It's a bizarre.
um, it's a bizarre decision. I almost wish you coulda used Fassbender somehow, like, as, like, a he just
Yeah.
sits there and pretends to be, like, a half-destroyed android,
Yeah.
because technically he would have been prior to the events of, these movies, and or at least Romulus. Um, but, yeah, I mean, I don't see much of a difference. I do really like Fede Alvarez.
Yeah, me too.
Weirdly enough, his version of Evil Dead is my favorite of the Evil Dead franchise, which I
It's
know
not my
is a
favorite, but I
controversial.
absolutely loved it.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
and
actually I'm one of the I guess few, but I hated the last Evil Dead movie.
oh, I liked it. I've liked all of them.
Yeah. Didn't feel like Evil Dead to me, but I'm a gigantic Evil Dead fan, so
Yeah. I think I'm down on Romulus a little bit too, maybe unfairly, but I got so hyped up when Fede Alvarez was connected to the project, and after
me too.
seeing Evil Dead, I'm like, this is gonna be the most bloody, gruesome, ridiculous alien movie we've gotten, and I actually think it was the most tame of the entire franchise.
I mean, it
So
regurgitated pretty much the same plot from the first one.
yeah. I
You
really
know,
think the only interesting thing there was it gave the face huggers a lot more screen time, and,
yeah, yeah, that was cool.
I did like that sequence where it was very Walking Dead, them walking through the kinda, like, minefield of
Yeah.
face huggers, but,
Well, there was
um,
definitely moments to love to really
yeah,
like about that movie, but, to me, I like fan service to a certain extent, but, like, when the whole movie's essentially that,
yeah.
I was like, "Okay." Uh,
But to go back to his comments, I would have to disagree saying that the CGI is so much better.
it's not.
It's the same. If you liked it before, you'll still like it again. If you don't, you won't. I just think it looks the same.
Yeah, I think it looks the exact same. I mean, one of the things I did enjoy about the movie, and which I'm kind of liking to see the comeback of, is the practical effects seem to be making much more of a
Thank God.
mainstay because I think Hollywood's terrified of AI and what it represents, and I think they're trying to go back to the more
Turn back the
practical way of
clock a
doing
little bit.
things. Yeah, and I'm here for it, man. I love practical, like like you brought it up earlier, The Thing, like that's
Best example.
yeah, so good, man. I mean, every time I go back and watch that, I'm like, they didn't, they had real explosions. Uh, I think that was Rick Baker, right? Rick Baker did all the
Mhm. It
the
even I mean, it even goes back to just, like, anything that's physically made with your hands will stand the test of time better, like, that's why I
Yep,
go back all the time and still watch old Wallace and Gromits. They look the same as the new movies.
that's true. Yeah, actually, I hadn't seen it until I watched it. I watched it this morning with the kids, and I was like,
Yeah,
"This." I mean, the Wallace and Gromit movies, they're just so enjoyable.
yeah.
Yep, harmless
I
fun.
literally think that short film they do, The Wrong Trousers, the first one with Feathers McGraw is, like, the
Yeah, that
best
one's great.
short animated media ever made.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I agree. All right, so let's move on to the review
oh,
of Den of
boy.
Thieves 2, Pantera. So I don't know if you saw my review on it, but I braved the elements out here in Texas.
Yeah,
And trust me, like if you're in the Midwest like Chicago or Boston, you guys are used to this weather. And it's like we get a little bit of snow, but we got a ton of snow this time. So being in Texas around that is not it's not fun to commute.
yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. I mean, where I am, I'm in a suburb outside of Dallas, and they take zero precautions on the roads. So the roads just turn into a big ice block, and it's like why even risk leaving? But that's beside the point. We survived another today. It's like 60 degrees, so like all of it's gone.
Yeah, it'll be gone tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be gone tomorrow. So anyway, all right, yeah. So um, give me some of your thoughts on the film. You saw it with your dad. What were your impressions?
Yeah, so I went into it a little optimistic just because the first one kinda I feel like came surprised me. It came
Me
out of
too.
nowhere.
Me too. I really enjoyed
Um,
it.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed that one. I thought there was a lot of very classic 90s level big machismo personalities in it. Stupid lines that like are funny, but you look back at like some of the best lines from like Arnold and Sly and Bruce Willis, and they're funny and macho at the same
Yeah.
time, because there's really not how anyone would talk in real life, but that's kind of like the fun. There's some good gunplay in it and a nice little cat and mouse. It was intense. So when I heard that there was going to be one that was
Well, the
just
twist
Gerard,
at the end was I was kinda blindsided by it. I mean,
remind me, it's been a while actually.
so it was, O'Shea Jackson's character,
Right.
Ice Cube Jr. was,
Yeah.
um, he was, like, kind of the weakling, kind of he was the middleman. He's like, "I don't know much about what they're doing,"
And then he ends up being like the
he gets pulled
mastermind, right?
he gets pulled on both sides, and then at the end, he ends up being the mastermind of the whole
Right.
thing.
Okay. Yeah.
So he gets away
And he gets
scot-free.
away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he pulls, did you ever see The Score with Edward Norton and
I
Marlon
actually have
Brando?
not.
Okay, well, then I don't wanna spoil that for you,
It's
but
all right.
it kinda had remnants of that.
Yeah.
And
So I was entertained by the first one. It was good, like loud and messy
yeah,
filmmaking.
a nice pretty
Um,
throwback movie.
and I like Gerard Butler when he's used correctly.
Me
I
too.
think he's had a nice little resurgence where he's almost reaching kind of like a different kind of Statham, where he plays the
Sure.
same kind of role every time, but
Yeah.
just
The
show
guy
us the
chain smokes in every scene.
chain smokes and always has like a Johnny Walker Black bottle
Yeah.
with him.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and like I liked Cop Shop a couple years ago.
Uh-huh.
Thought he was solid in that, but just playing the same guy, but it works for him. But when I heard there was going to be a sequel, and it's been so long since they probably were trying to get that out, but it was still coming out, and it's 2.5 hours long, and it's just him and O'Shea Jackson Jr. And uh, I liked the heist stuff. I think there was way too much of everything else.
I agree. Yeah.
Um, it's just like it took so long to get going. And it really kind of where the first one surprised me, this one is going to tread right back into just being,
Whatever, I'll
put
forget
any
about
put any heist movie ever in
it. Yeah.
here.
I think the problem with this one too is it's written and directed by the same guy. So you're like, oh, cool. They'll just pick up kind of where they are. But this one, there was so much setup and there was so much going on that when things finally start kicking off, you're like, wait, what are they doing again? Because nothing was
Yeah,
really clear. They get so caught up on the raw, the diamond that they have, and there's all these different characters, and there's all these different scenarios, and there's so much plot that's happening where you're like, man, you guys could have really just simplified it, made it you didn't need to make it so complicated for what you were trying to achieve. And then spoilers for anybody, but the big reveal at the end, I was like, I could have seen that coming a million miles away. I wasn't none of that surprised me. Like the first one. The first one I was actually kind of caught off guard a little bit, which I
also I'll
like.
say
I like the misdirection stuff, but with this one, once the action finally starts kicking off, you're like, I don't really care that much either.
that O'Shea Jackson Jr. is no Juliette Binoche. Terrible French accent,
Yeah,
absolutely awful.
that accent was brutal.
Um, but yeah, no, I second pretty much everything you said. I didn't. I still found the conclusion enjoyable enough in the sense of the big reveal, even though you could
Yeah.
see it coming a mile away. Um, because obviously, like, why would this guy kind of just break bad out of nowhere
Yeah,
for
it didn't
it
make
being
any
his
sense
life's
to me.
goal to
Well, and
track these
especially,
guys
like, in
down?
the first one, because some of his buddies were killed and,
Yeah.
like
And he gives that
obviously
monologue in this movie about his dad, and he's like, "I made it my
yeah,
life's goal to track down the people that have like
yeah.
wronged me
Yeah,
and
it's like it
stuff." And
doesn't
I'm
make
like,
any
"Okay."
sense for you to be anything other than just, the dude that chases the baddies.
But I'll watch a movie where Gerard Butler like drinks and punches people. Like,
Yeah, he was great in it. He was the only one
yeah,
that really brought it, I thought.
yeah.
Um,
So,
but yeah, so much of, like, the inner subplots too, where, like, he kinda had a crush on the
right,
girl who had a
yeah.
bad
Who
whose
was still
ex-boyfriend
working
was
with
in.
her hothead ex for some
Yeah,
reason?
and then that guy ends up being one of the and then there was another part in the movie that drove me insane. It was when because the car chase I thought, was awesome at the end,
You say
but
how it ended?
Well, yeah, like they
Yeah.
crash and then all of a sudden those dudes show up out of nowhere. I was like, this
Like, where
feels
were
like
they on? They were on foot already. They knew exactly where they were gonna
yeah,
crash?
exactly what I was like
I don't know.
did I miss something? How did these guys know
Yeah.
where to be there right at that moment? But
And did I hear you say that there's gonna be 3 more of these?
yeah, they said they're planning on 3 more of them.
I don't know. I don't see that,
I
to be
don't either.
honest. They need a massive creative revamp if that's gonna
Well,
happen.
with the way it ends, obviously they set up for another one. I mean, it's
But it's like, I
just
don't even wanna watch that setup,
no,
really.
honestly, this would have been a one and done, and I would have been like, "Cool, this is one of those movies that if somebody's like, 'Hey, I wanna watch a really fun, gritty kind of bank heist movie that I don't know much about,' I'd be like, 'Watch Den of Thieves.'" I was saying that for a while. I was like,
Yeah.
"Watch Den of Thieves. It's a great underrated heist movie."
Yeah, it is good.
Michael Mannish. And I think would you refer to, this one
It's
as, Heat
it's
Light
it's Heat
2?
Heat Light 2, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because the gun battle at the end of, the first Den of Thieves is awesome. It's probably one of the
Yeah.
better ones I've seen in a while, so,
And that
uh,
chase scene where he's, like, chasing what's Master Chief's name? Pablo Schreiber or
yeah,
something?
Pablo Schreiber, yeah.
Where they're, like, hopping fences,
Yeah,
chasing each
great.
other, and.
Well, I mean, even the you can even tell that they did some military training and stuff like
Yeah,
that, by the way they hold the guns and the way they move and
yeah.
stuff. It
I'm a
was
sucker for that kind the
me
detail
too, man.
stuff,
Me too.
so.
I mean, I remember the first time I saw Heat, it was just like my movie boner was fully
Yeah.
fully risen
Fully,
at
yes.
that time. Yeah. It was, and it's nothing like that, like, you don't have that feeling often, so when I saw Den of Thieves, I was like, "This is actually a pretty solid gun battle scene."
Yeah.
It was nice and gritty, but, okay, so on your Sully score, you're out of 5 stars, what would this be, like a 2, 2.5, something like that?
I'll probably give it a 2.5 out of 5.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I gave it, like, a 6 out of 10. It's not a bad movie, it's just
Yeah.
it was so slow,
Brings nothing new
and
to the table, really.
yeah,
Or
and
and
there
I'll
was
also
so many
say any new development I wasn't that excited about.
right, and there were so many scenes where I was like, they coulda cut that scene. That had
Yeah.
nothing it added nothing to this. They gave a ton of exposition to the
Yeah.
characters where you're like, when I watched the first Den of Thieves, I didn't really need any of that, you know? So,
Mhm. Yeah.
I heard someone say that they wanna, basically make this like the rated R Fast and the Furious franchise, but, I was like, "I don't know, man. Fast and the Furious movies are many things, but they're not boring."
They exposition is not a bad word, and it's not a word used very often on the, set of Fast and Furious, I'm
Yeah,
sure. Like, it's just right into it, and
yeah,
sometimes you could
right
benefit from
into it.
that.
Like, did you see the last one, X?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most ridiculous movie I think I've ever seen, but it's
Yes.
like, at the very least, it's entertaining as hell.
Yeah. At
But
least they
entertaining doesn't mean good. I just mean I was not bored for 1 second watching that movie.
what's funny is you watch that last one, and it's crazy to think that you can say that they toned it back and it's more grounded than
Yeah, they
9.
didn't go to space in that
They
one.
didn't go to space. There wasn't that there's that awesome scene where Vin Diesel's, like, being held back by, like, 20 like, it goes full Winter Soldier. He's getting
Yeah,
held
yeah, yeah,
back by, like, 20 guys. He's, like, throwing them around and, like, breaking their backs and stuff.
yeah, yeah, and Jason
Uh,
Momoa I thought was awesome in that one.
it's almost like an unfortunate thing where it's like once a franchise adds John Cena, it becomes too ridiculous.
Would
And it's sad because I really like John Cena, but,
was that the scene? Oh, so that was my favorite scene in
like,
all
you
of
remember when he
Fast.
caught him with the car?
That's what I'm saying. I think
Yes,
that was my
yeah.
favorite scene of any Fast and the Furious movie because it's so preposterous.
Yes.
'Cause, right, he was driving and they flip and the kid flies through the car into Vin Diesel's car, and then he drives
Oh,
off the bridge.
yes, but there was one scene in Fast 9 where, he, like, hits into a car that collides with a car that John Cena's standing on. It makes
Oh,
John
yeah.
Cena fly off it, and he, like, catches him on the hood of his
Yep,
car
yep.
at like 120 miles an hour.
Uh, amazing.
It's about family, honestly, but
Yeah, it really Yeah, yeah, so well, I mean, as you said, or I guess as we were saying, it's not a bad movie, I won't remember it
yeah,
in 2 weeks, but
1
so
week.
far, January is off to a better start than it was last year. Because last year, the first movie I saw was Night Swim, and that ended
Yeah,
up on my worst of list because it just stuck with me for how bad it was.
I
I don't
skipped
think
that one, I couldn't do it.
I remember, yeah, because I think you just watched what was that horror movie that everyone was raving about, but when it released, everybody hated it? The Skinamarink or,
Oh, dude, don't get me
yeah.
started. I hate Skinamarink. I
Yeah.
still get so much flack for that too. That
I
talk
know,
about
dude. People love
divisive.
that
Yeah,
movie.
talk about divisive. That's like half the people agree with me that it's just a guy set up a camcorder for 90 minutes and stared at the wall. And you saw it, right? Did you
Yeah.
see
Oh, yeah.
that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
the other half are like, this is the scariest film ever created.
No.
I'm just not an analog horror guy, I guess.
I like some of them, but it's a old it's old at this point, I guess.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
more of a
Hate Skinamarink. I hated Skinamarink, and I hated, I think what I saw instead of Night Swim is I went to one of those, Monday mystery movies at Regal, and they showed that movie Founder's Day, if you ever saw that. Hope you didn't.
I don't no, I didn't see that one.
Absolutely.
I don't even remember
It
that.
was it was literally about, like, Founder's Day as a holiday in this small town, and some kinda like it was almost like The Purge, where it's like if some law is decreed by a certain, like, day or something, so everyone's, like, wearing, like, a twisted judge's mask, killing
Uh-huh.
off the politicians or something, and it was visual ass. It was
Okay.
really just awful. Yeah.
Yeah, you just summarized it perfectly for me. I'm
Yeah.
glad I missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, I saw so many movies last year, man, and it was like the horror is in a weird spot, I think, because all it is now is just parlor tricks
Yeah.
or you get something that's beautiful and amazing like Nosferatu, and people are like, "God, that movie's so boring." I've talked to
Yeah.
so many people who are like, "That was the most boring movie I've ever seen." I was like, "Really?" I mean, it's hard for me to really sit back and say a movie's boring because I'm
Yeah.
watching so many different elements. But,
I was
you
locked
know,
in.
yeah, locked in the whole time.
Yeah.
The whole time I was, and the performances were great. But I also feel like you have to walk into that movie knowing who and what Robert Eggers is. If you haven't
Yeah.
seen a Robert Eggers movie, you know, I get it. I mean, the first time I saw The Witch, I was like, what the hell's happening?" Just the
Love
way
The
they were
Witch.
talking. Love
Yeah.
that movie. Love it. But I think honestly, I think Nosferatu is probably my favorite of his, you know,
I still
but
think it's The Witch for me, but it's
okay,
close.
that's fine.
I will say
I
though, I get crap for this too, though. I'm like, with how I talk about it, you'd say I'm anti, so I'll say I'm anti. I think I'm anti Lighthouse. Uh,
okay, that's my least
but
favorite of his.
yeah,
Yeah,
but I still think it's like a 3 out of 5
sure.
because I appreciate a lot about it. But
I like the Lovecraftian angle it takes with
and I
it.
love weird movies. People keep
Me
saying
too.
like you must not like weird stuff. I'm like,
Oh,
I don't think
dude.
that was the issue. It was just like it didn't there was like weird for the sake of weird, and then there's weird.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
he's
there's
still
so many
phenomenal
times
director.
the internet's amazing because I think you and I were pretty much in agreement that Spaceman, the Adam Sandler movie that came out last
Yeah.
year on Netflix, like, it was fine. It wasn't anything to run home about. It was good or whatever, but, like, I got so much backlash on it just for giving I gave it a 6 out of 10,
Yeah.
and people were just like, "Oh, I'm sorry, this isn't Avengers Part 2, bro." I got so
They
many of
love
those.
that one.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm like, "Listen, 1, I watch way more movies than you,
Yeah.
and 2, like, I didn't read the book," so a lot of people were bitching. I got that from that and the new Hellboy movie.
Which I
Um,
didn't see. Wait, people were defending that one?
People loved it.
Wow. I did
Who
not know that.
read the book or read the
Okay.
graphic novel that it's based off
What was
of.
it like Crooked Man or
Yeah, The
something?
Crooked Man. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the movie was fine for about 45 minutes, and then it devolves into this weird. I don't know, man. It flies off the rails
Is it
essentially.
better
And
than the David Harbour one?
yeah, it
Okay.
is, but that's not saying much.
Right, yeah.
uh, but I think I gave it like a 5 out of 10 or something. I was like,
Yeah.
it's fine, whatever. But I got so much feedback of people being like, "Well, you need to read the book before you watch the movie, bro." And I was like, "All right, so how many books have you read before you watched the movie of it? Like, did you read Jaws before you watched it?" Like that's such a ridiculous argument, but people are passionate. They like what they like.
It
And
goes back and forth though. Like I get it. I think a lot of the time people just love they can't respect opinions. Like they have
no,
to
no.
defend
All
vehemently.
group think. You gotta
Yes.
think or act this certain way, otherwise we're gonna come after you with pitchforks and
But there are definitely movies that I've enjoyed more because I've read the books before, but it's also
absolutely.
part of a movie's job to be accessible to people that are new to the subject matter. So,
Well, what's funny, do you get these comments a lot? I'll get if I didn't like something that, you know, a lot of people tend to like, it's, "You're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about." go watch another Avengers movie.
Yeah.
Or if you like something that a lot of people hate, they'll say, "How much were you paid to make this?" And I'm
Well,
like,
it's
"I wasn't paid
that,
anything."
but it's the same guy that says, "Go watch, like, Avengers Part 2," on me saying, like, say that I thought, like, Sonic rocked and they hated it or something, you know?
Yeah,
Or no, it'd be me shit talking like a artsy movie that I didn't like, and he'll say, "Go watch Avengers Part 2." And then if I shit talk a movie that is like junk food that everyone liked, the same guy would be like, "Why don't you just go watch like Citizen Kane?"
I
You
know.
know, like
Yeah,
it's like there's
yeah,
it's you can't win with these guys.
I know.
I've
I mean,
literally stopped responding with a lot of them because it's
yeah,
just
me
you
too. Oh,
can't.
most of them I think are bots. Some of them I just laugh about. I'm like, "Whatever,
Yeah.
dude. Like, you're not even a real person."
I got
But
tons of crap for saying that Long Legs was disappointing.
oh, yeah? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I gave it like a 6.5 or 7 out of 10 or something. A lot of
Yeah, I
people
think I
hated
think I
it.
gave it a 6 out of 10, which for
Yeah.
me, I just said it was disappointing because I was expecting the way everyone was talking about it, I was expecting it to be a 9 out of 10.
Oh, yeah, me too, man. I was
So,
expecting Silence of the Lambs Part 2, but scarier.
yeah,
And,
that's
I mean,
exactly what I went into with him.
Nicolas Cage was a blast in it, but
Yeah.
he was
He
in the
can't
movie for
carry
what,
the
like
whole
2 minutes?
thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I didn't care a lot about, what's her name? The detective
Micah
lady.
Monroe's
Yeah,
character.
yeah, I didn't really care
Yeah.
much about what was going on there, and then with the whole mom element, kind of
Although you better believe I will be seated for the It Follows sequel.
absolutely.
Cannot wait for that. Hope it's
Yeah,
good.
so, yeah, what's it called? Smile. I loved Smile too, because I
Mhm.
didn't really much care for Smile 1. I thought it was essentially It Follows Part 2, just, it took, like, all the good parts of It Follows and just kind of rehashed it,
Yeah.
and so I expected nothing from Smile 2. I thought it was great, but I got ton of crap about that movie, and
That people but from people that didn't like it?
yeah, a lot of people hate that movie, like,
That's
passionately
weird.
hate that
That's
movie.
weird. I didn't think
Yeah.
I've only seen praise, so it's funny kinda like what corner of the internet ends up showing up that
Y
day.
yeah, or where whatever the algorithm shows in my
Yeah.
video, yes.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
fine with both Smiles. I didn't love either of them,
yeah,
but I think they're both 3 out of 5s for me.
okay, that's
I
fair.
mean, I'll watch more.
I think Naomi Scott was so good in
She
Smile
was
2
really good in
that
that.
that really just kind of put it over the top for me. I
And I
thought
think
it's something
ever since Black Mirror, I hate the woman that plays her mother, which
oh, I
means she's a
know,
good actress.
she's great, but she plays that
Uh,
role perfectly.
like the helicopter parent that goes
Uh,
too far.
yep,
Obviously, it was kinda like what's hallucination and not in this one, but,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, she clearly does a good job because I can't stand her.
yeah, that's fair, that's fair. Alright, so what do we got next? Oh, so, I also meant to ask you this, so, do you play the Helldivers game?
I honestly, like, had it downloaded, a bunch of my boys were playing, and then it was, like, by the time my schedule had freed up and I was gonna play it,
Just
they
it was
moved
too late.
on. Yeah.
It's too late. Yeah, I get that.
But
Well,
like, from stuff that I love in the past and knowing the concept, I'm sure I would've dove right in.
yeah.
No pun
Yeah, I
intended.
mean, I never played it, but I did I don't have much time for video games, although I am playing the new Indiana Jones game, which is just freaking fantastic.
I'm, like, 5 or 6 hours into that right now, I love
Yeah,
it.
are you loving it, dude?
Yeah. I mean, Raiders is my favorite movie of all time, so
I know we've talked about this
I'm the
before.
perfect demographic,
You
and
and me both, man.
yeah.
It's like the Indiana Jones movie that should have happened that never did.
100%, and, like, Troy Baker, I don't even know how he makes his voice sound
Sounds
like that.
exactly like him. It
Yeah,
is
it rocks.
insane.
I was concerned how they were gonna pull it off, like, I didn't know if I really liked the decision of it being first person, but I'm digging it.
I'm digging it, man. I don't know how far into it I am. I have it on my Steam Deck, so whenever I get a free second, I'll lay in bed and play it.
Yeah.
But I'm in Thailand right now, so I don't know how where you're at. You're probably
Trying
in
to
Italy.
remember.
Okay,
Uh
so I wanted to. So I made 3 videos for my best, worst, and most overlooked movies of 2024. I was so busy towards the end of the year. I was only able to release my best of movies. So I wanted
yeah.
to talk to you about yours. I saw your 10 list.
Yeah.
So if you want to recap those, we could go through yours and mine. I think we have similar movies on the same list.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that. I'll pull it up on
Sure.
my
Well, I can
letterbox here.
kick off mine. My number
Sure.
10 was Last Stop in Yuma County. Uh,
Mhm.
Were you able to see that?
Yeah, and I like a lot of Jim Cummings' work.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it, man. I expected nothing from it. I like that it was 90 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, it got to the point, gave me Coen Brothers, early Coen Brothers
Mhm.
feel with just the quirky characters, the
Yeah.
ridiculous situations they got themselves into, and then just the curveball. What is it? I like not a happy ending, but it's done in such a whimsical way to where you're just kind of like, hell yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
100%. Yeah, no, I like that one. That's a good one.
yeah.
I really think, like, I don't think Jim Cummings has had a miss yet for me.
No,
So I will say, I think, what is the one that he did? I really love that Wolfman one, like the Wolf of Snow Hollow.
oh,
Um,
actually,
that
I don't think I've seen that one.
oh, check that's the best one. Check that
Okay.
one out. My number 10 spot is that Indian action movie Kill.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
it was basically like,
Indian Raid.
yeah, John Wick and Snowpiercer smashed together.
Yeah,
It's really violent. It's really cool. It's filmed really well. Did you end up seeing that one?
yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
saw
because
it.
you know how like it kind of like the first 45 minutes, you're like, this is so cheesy, and like
Yeah,
maybe it's
it was
just
very, very Bollywood at the
yeah,
beginning of
maybe
it.
it's like maybe I'm just not used to this style of Indian cinema, and which is also true because I don't watch nearly enough movies from over there. And then it absolutely just like kicks off like a bulldozer, and doesn't let up until the last frame. Some great fights in that.
Yeah, dude,
Um,
some of that stuff was brutal.
just unbelievable choreography. Yeah, that's definitely. I love action. I needed to make sure that I got one of those on my list, and that definitely
Yeah.
fits the bill.
Yeah, I think the year before, I definitely had John Wick 4 up on my top 10
I think
list,
that
so
was like my number 2.
oh, really? Okay.
I think it was
Yeah, I think
that,
it
but
was in my top 5. I love I
Godzilla. So,
yeah, Godzilla was number 2 last year, and then Holdovers was 1, but
oh yeah, great movie.
yeah. Yeah, alright, so, number 9, I had a Nora, which,
Hmm.
if I were to go back and remake this list, I'd probably put that a little higher, but like there's so many movies that come out where you hear so much about it and then you watch it with those expectations and then you leave and you're like, yeah, I mean, it was fine. It wasn't as good as everybody says. But then I watched it again and I was like, no, this it's spectacular. It's
Yeah.
really, really, really well done. Um, you know, no CGI, no big name actors in it. Just an awesome story, unbelievably well written dialogue, lots of improv scenes. And I'm glad to see the dude who played Igor is getting the credit he deserves. Because when I
Oh
first
yeah.
watched, I was like, I know Mikey Madison's getting all the accolades and all the buzz, but I was like, that dude is like the glue that holds the whole movie together.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have that there.
Yeah. I have that on my list. So it's a touch higher up. My number 9 is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes,
Oh, okay.
which
Yeah.
I really like all those movies in the new kind of wave of the franchise.
Yeah.
Um, I actually think this is the second best out of the 4 now,
Okay.
even though
Yeah.
all of them are very good.
Yeah.
But the motion capture is like up there with the most amazing I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't know that entire last 20 minutes where the main character is running from like the gorilla character in like
Oh, yeah.
the underwater base that's like slowly flooding. I have no idea how they did the CGI water for that. Like it's the
Yeah.
most
It's
unbelievable real looking
pretty
stuff I've ever
impressive.
seen. Um, but I think it surprised me. It might even be higher up in my rankings just because I was not expecting much from it. Like it seemed like it was a little bit of a cash grab. Like, how do you continue this story after like the Caesar legacy ends? Like, is there really anything there worth telling? And they took this story and kind of made it biblical in a
Mhm.
way, with people misinterpreting Caesar's teachings,
Yeah.
and all that. And I thought that was kind of a cool angle. The new main characters are really easy to root for. I'm still mourning the loss of Raka, and
Yeah. I saw
it's
your tweet about that.
yeah, but still thinking about him.
Yeah.
And it was a good year for monkeys. I'll say that.
Yeah, what's funny
Um,
is, one of the comments on my Better Man review, someone was like, "Man, Caesar's great in everything he's in."
yeah, yeah, seriously. Someone said they said that Better Man was what would have happened if Caesar never bit that guy's finger.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is my number 9.
Okay.
I'm just a total sucker for those movies anyway.
Yeah, I like him too, man. You can't go wrong with that. I
Yeah,
think my only issue with that movie is a little on the long side. There was some
yeah,
filler they could have easily cut out, but for the most part, it's a fun ride. Fits in with the newer movies quite well.
yeah. I ate
So
it up.
the one thing I'm kind of confused about with the whole Planet of the Apes thing is like in the Charlton Heston movies, he goes to a different planet and lands on a planet of apes. With this one, it's like, oh, the virus came and then like I guess the correlation's a little. I'm kind of confused as to where it
So
go.
my take is that
He comes from a
it's
different planet,
it's
maybe.
like all of these movies are prequels, and they said they want to make like 3 or 4 more of them or
Oh,
something,
really?
right? Something like that. And I think that the last one will end right where that Charlton Heston movie starts.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but we'll see. Only time will tell. I mean, they keep making money, so luckily they're going to keep making them. But
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I mean this one did well. And to me, I'm like, a Disney could take a lesson from them because the CG is just so freaking solid, and
oh my god,
they don't spend Red One money on it,
dude,
which
that's
we're,
firmly on my. That might
yeah,
be my
we'll
worst.
we'll
We'll
get to the
see.
worst of list here in a little bit.
Yeah.
How about number 8? What you got there?
Uh, never watching it again. Gladiator 2.
Okay.
Just enjoyed the hell out of it when I was watching it. Felt like a kid in a candy store a bit. I've said for a while that if the original is like a classical composition, then this new one is just pure messy punk rock. And I like that about this one. Sure, it has like none of the emotional depth. Storytelling definitely isn't as good. I don't think they were really trying for it to be, but it's just not also just not as good. But I mean, rhinos in the Coliseum and naval battles,
Yeah.
Denzel absolutely chewing the fat. Um, I definitely enjoyed myself with this one,
I
and
mean, I'm
just
not a
being a
his
Ridley Scott fanboy. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not a history buff, but I was very curious how they got sharks into the Colosseum.
so I don't know about the sharks thing, but I did hear that the naval battle happened once.
Yeah,
Like I did hear,
I've heard
yeah.
that, but I don't think back then they even knew what sharks were.
I don't think
So,
they did.
yeah, but
Yeah,
whatever.
I
It's
don't
Ridley
know.
Scott, he can do what he wants.
Jury's out on that one. Yeah, you weren't
So
there, Chris.
that's true. That's true. He makes a valid point there. So my number 8 was A Real Pain, the
Mhm.
uh, Jesse Eisenberg written, directed, and starring vehicle. Did you get a chance
I
to check
actually
that out?
never got a chance to check that one out, but I've
It's awesome.
heard nothing
I
but
think
good
it's dropping on
things.
Hulu this week. So
Yeah,
when you get
I've
a
heard
sec,
good
watch
good
it.
things.
It's an excellent movie, man. Kieran Culkin sells the whole thing. He plays such a nonchalant, just kind of seems kind of like a loner, stoner, uh, don't care about anything, but deep down he's hiding immense pain.
Yeah,
Um,
a real
so
pain, some would
yeah,
say.
a real pain, if you
Yeah,
would. So yeah, he's easily the star of the show. Like there's a couple cringe-inducing moments where you're just like, oh my god, dude. But he's
yeah,
so good in it, and the award he won is totally valid. So um yeah, it's good. And then it's essentially their grandma dies, and they go to part of Poland where they do a tour of Poland in the end in the city that she was from, and go visit her apartment. But in the meantime, they go to like
hit
concentration
all the
camps and things
spots.
like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's great, man. And then Jesse Eisenberg is so good at playing the kind of Adderall induced, overly
yeah,
anxious Woody Allen esque, modern day Woody Allen esque sort of
yeah,
character. He's always super overly stressed, skinny, just always nervous about something. So yeah,
yeah,
it's a solid flick.
yeah.
So let's see what you got in number 7.
7 is where I have Honora.
Okay.
Um, I've definitely liked everything I've seen from Sean Baker.
Yeah, me too.
Really enjoyed Red Rocket from a couple years ago.
Yep. That was great.
So I know that he kind of likes making these almost slice of life films about ordinary people that you have nothing in common with, even though
Yeah.
it's a slice of life film. Like obviously, um, I was saying on my top 10, I'm hoping, but I think when you look at me, you don't really get like a mouthy Brooklyn stripper vibe, but I still was able to connect with the
Sure.
main character just because it was very down to earth and
Yeah,
grounded. And it was a lot about like power imbalances and
yeah,
relationships and the American dream, and her trying to grasp onto this like Cinderella story that
yeah,
was falling apart in front of her eyes. Um, I also thought it was pretty funny.
yeah, it was.
You
There were
know,
a lot of good lines.
um, I do think it maybe spent too much time searching for the kid. Like,
Yeah,
I think there
yeah,
was
that
too
got a
much,
little got a little
um,
redundant.
but, that last scene kinda seals the deal of,
Dude, the
Mikey
last scene
Madison.
that
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that scene's fantastic, and what I liked about the movie too is it didn't have a 2024 feel. It felt like that movie
Yeah.
coulda easily come out in the late '90s,
That honestly
and it
feels like a
wasn't.
Sean Baker thing.
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't, but what I liked about it too is that it wasn't glorifying her profession, but it also
Mhm.
wasn't,
Wasn't
diminishing
condemning
it.
it either,
It
yeah.
wasn't yeah, it wasn't looking down on it. It was just telling a story.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that, because Hollywood tends to fall into those tropes where it's just like, oh, we got to make a real point about what she's doing for a living, and they didn't
Yeah.
really. So that's really what I've liked about about Sean Baker. So my number seven was Furiosa.
Mhm.
I know that's probably I think that was in your top ten. I watched everything, but I've drank since then. So um, uh, just George Miller's just he makes a spectacle and entertaining as hell spectacle. Like I honestly had I think in my top 10 list of this, I said it's one of those movies where no one asked for it. There wasn't much buzz going into it. I didn't really care one way or the other. I think a lot of the side of YouTube was like, "Oh, it's gonna be Girl Boss Central," and then it really
Mhm.
wasn't. It was actually just a badass movie, and Chris
Yeah.
Hemsworth was one of the best antagonists in a big mega blockbuster in a while. I had an absolute blast with it. The action scenes were as good as you would ever expect from a George Miller movie. And
Mhm.
I actually kind of liked it was a nice departure from Fury Road. Fury Road is like upper tier for me, but what I liked about this is it was a lot easier to follow. It didn't have that chaotic sort of visceral sense to it. It was pretty much more straightforward, but
Mhm.
some of the action sequences were just I mean, when I saw it in the IMAX and I was just like glued to the screen. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that movie rocks. That's even higher up on my list for me.
yep.
What is it, number 6?
Number 6.
Number 6, I have A Complete Unknown.
Okay.
Um, Definitely dug that, especially even being someone that is not really a Bob Dylan fan.
Right.
I like a lot of other singers and bands out of that time period, but he's just not one I gravitate to. In full honesty, probably get some shit for this, but I just don't think his voice sounds very pleasant to listen to,
And there's
honestly, even though I can.
a lot of people feel that way. They feel like he's the
Yeah,
best songwriter ever, but not the
great
best.
songwriter, but
Yeah.
I just do not like listening to his singing voice.
Sure.
But thought the
I can handle it for a little bit, but I
yeah,
agree with you.
doses.
Yeah. Actually,
Um,
his son has a much better voice than he does.
yeah, I like his son stuff. What is
Yeah,
that band called again?
the
What is it?
Wallflowers.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, no, I like this one. I pretend that Dial of Destiny didn't exist, but I love Mangold.
Me too. I
I,
pretend
I'm
it
a
doesn't exist as well.
I'm a big fan. Like Ford versus Ferrari is one of my favorites.
Oh,
Um,
dude, great movie.
yeah, he rocks behind the camera,
Yeah.
and he really
I
has a
mean,
good
Logan's one of
craft.
my favorite comic book movies
Yeah,
ever.
Logan rocks. I also sneaky like the Wolverine, even though that gets a lot of
Oh, yeah.
hate. But
I mean, I understand everyone hates the last 30 minutes, and
yeah,
I totally get
but
why.
like that funeral scene of him in like
Oh, awesome.
Japan,
Yeah.
like outside
So
the
good.
house, awesome stuff. But
So good.
Chalamet does really good work. I mean, like you said earlier, everyone does pretty good work here.
Yeah.
It's always great watching Ed Norton do anything.
Yeah.
And this is like one of his most kind of like cheery roles that he's done in a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, but editing was good, performances were good. It was the most non like it was probably, if I'm considering Better Man 2025, I'd say it's the most musical biopic of 2024 in the sense that it felt much more like a concert movie. Like
Yeah.
there must have been like 30 numbers, 30 performances in this song. and not that much dialogue or story compared to other biopics. And I found that pretty refreshing. So I
Yeah,
definitely dug that one.
I agree. Yeah, that didn't make my top 10, but it's definitely in the top 15, 20, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I think maybe my theory on that is, and I think you mentioned this in your review, it's not a really rewatchable movie. It's kind of a one and
Yeah.
done sort of film.
It's like a
Uh,
cool music history thing,
yeah,
but I'm probably never going to revisit it.
yeah, I agree. I agree. And then the love subplots, I didn't think they were really all that necessary in the movie because they just
Hmm.
there wasn't much context going on there, so I was like, I can live without these. But I
Yeah.
mean, I know they got to throw Joan Baez in there because she's a big part of his story in that time. All right, so my number 6 was The Substance. Um, that's another controversial one. Funny enough, I mean, I think people who are just kind of general moviegoers that don't understand body horror or really got the message that this movie was putting out are gonna
Oh,
watch
so
this
you
and be
wait.
like,
So you think it's controversial that you had it this high?
yeah, well, no,
Okay.
no, no. I mean, I think people like us, like that do this for not for a living, but we do it on the reg.
Yeah.
Uh, we all have it in our top 10. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
probably the least surprising pick I have on here,
Yeah.
but it's controversial for like
Casual
I got so
audiences, you
many
think?
comments from people that just absolutely loathe this movie. And when I saw it in the theater, I think I saw it when it first came to the Dallas area, and there were people walking out, and,
Yeah.
just because the last 30 minutes is batshit insane,
Which is the best
and
part of the movie.
that's the best part of the movie. Yeah, yeah, it's really hammering the point home. And what I like about it is it's a movie about Hollywood making fun of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Just the perfect example. We have to make ourselves look 20 when we're 60 years old, all the
Right.
beauty
Yeah.
standards and ridiculous things that they have out there. And then plus, like, I know Margaret Qualley and Demi Moore are fantastic in the movies. They're probably gonna one of them's probably gonna end up with an award. But dude, Dennis Quaid plays the best slimy producer I
Yeah.
think in the history of Hollywood in this movie. He's
Well,
so
what's funny
fucking
too,
good.
dude, is like you have like these two women jammed together into this like Frankenstein monster suit, spraying
Yeah.
blood everywhere. And I
Yep.
still think you could make the case that the grossest scenes in
He's
the movie were of
he's
him
keeping the
eating his
shrimp
shrimp.
and
Yeah, eating his
oh
shrimp like close up. I was like,
yeah.
dude,
That's the
get
thing
like
about that
cut
movie is
away from this.
there's like no wide shots in that movie. Everything's a close up essentially.
Yeah,
So it's just like the
everything's a close
tension is
up.
just yeah.
Him
It's
licking his fingers, I thought was way more grotesque than the last 20 minutes.
so yeah, actually I'm right there with you. Like violence and stuff like that in movies, it doesn't bother me as I especially in this because it was all done practically. So I'm just sitting there loving watching, thinking about how they're doing this behind the scenes. But food and like food sounds, I can't do those in movies.
That director's
Nuts.
establishing, like, a pretty cool brand for herself. Like, I had never seen her first film. Did you ever see Revenge?
No.
So I watched it.
She's like a French Canadian director, right? Or is
Yeah.
she just French?
I
Can't
think
remember.
she's at least French. I mean, with that
Yeah.
last name, it's like Farage or
Yeah.
something. But I watched Revenge, I think, a day before I knew I was going to see The Substance.
Okay.
And it's definitely, like, messier. It's not as good, but there's still crazy moments of almost like Tarantino on steroids, close up violence, and just like kind of those same just camera movements that she uses in The
Yeah.
Substance. So it's like really cool that she is establishing this kind of like formula for herself, and it's
Sure.
pretty much reaching the mainstream. This is probably like the most mainstream out there horror movie this year.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so at least people are actually seeing it because you have Demi Moore winning awards now. So people are like,
Yeah.
all right, let's if it's gonna get nominated for an Oscar, I might as well check it out. And then they
Go check it
walk
out.
out
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
thinking, okay, that is not one I was ever planning on seeing before that.
Yeah. It's definitely not a movie for everybody,
No,
but
I my mom watched it the other night and she really liked it,
did she
surprisingly.
really?
So yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
I
go
made
mom.
her I she like, my parents are split up, so the times when I'd be with my mother, just me and her in the house, and I didn't have any siblings, I definitely made her watch some
Oh, you're
like
an only child?
crazy. Yes.
Okay.
But I would make her watch some like crazy shit that there's no way she would have watched on her own. So I think she actually is better than most with this kind
Yeah.
of
I do that
when it
with my
comes.
wife. I do that with my
Yeah.
wife, but there's a 0% chance she can handle this movie. I
Oh,
think
there's
when I
no way
went and
my
saw
wife
The
would watch this with me.
Substance, she always asked me because I see 95% of the movies I watch
Yeah.
without her. Uh, but I always try to take her to the movies that I know she's gonna like.
Yeah.
But she asked me this one, and I was like, if I took you to see this, you'd probably want a divorce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually so it's funny you say that. I've said this before that, I grew up with one of my buddies in high school. We would watch every horror movie under the sun, kind of
uh
like the grosser the better. Like
Yeah,
it
sure.
was a real sick
Like
pattern
the
growing up.
Hostel days.
All that kind of stuff. Every
Yeah.
Saw, every foreign film that they said was like a gross, you know, torture film. And I've always said this that my mother-in-law is a huge Hallmark watcher. She
Uh-huh.
loves the Hallmark movies,
That's my
and
stepmom.
I've said to my wife numerous times that, like, if she ever came downstairs when I was watching what I consider, like, a run-of-the-mill horror movie, she would quietly go upstairs and tell my wife to, like, pack her things, like, "We need to get out of here." Like, this guy's absolutely tapped,
He's got something
um,
wrong with him.
legitimately, so let's
Yeah.
hope that never happens. But that is, like, she would be the audience, she would watch this, and she'd be like, "I'm never watching a movie ever again."
Yeah, geez. That's so funny. So what do you got at number 6?
Well, I'm on 5. 6 was
Oh,
my
5, sorry.
complete unknown. 5
Oh,
actually is Substance for me.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
not much of a
really,
difference.
really dug it.
Well, I think we talked about that one enough. My
Yeah.
number 5 was, Juror number 2. Did you
Mhm.
get a chance to check that out?
No, I didn't see it because it was so limited
Dude,
release, and then
what
I
a
was gonna
crime they did to
I
that
know,
movie.
into
It's such
Eastwood.
a Yeah, I mean, it's the dude makes a movie at 94, and you're just like, "All right." I mean, Eastwood's made a billion movies, but he's like, "It's my final movie." He's doing the
Yeah,
stuff with Warner Brothers. Then David Zaslav's like, we're not gonna do
screw
any.
it.
We'll put it in a limited release where nobody
Yeah.
can see it." I found a theater close by and was able to see it, but I walked out. Went in there, was like, "Whatever, I'll go check it out." It's an Eastwood film, and then I walked out. And I was like, "Wow, that was great." It was tense. It was well written, and it gives you a really nice. There's a really nice juxtaposition of like he's about to be a new father. He's on the jury. He's on the jury, finding out that he actually killed this woman while he was driving home, and he has to try to do the case of the guy that they're like convinced is the killer. So
Mm.
it's a great movie, man. Conflict of interest, great courtroom stuff. J.K. Simmons has a little part in it, and he's awesome. Tony Collette's great as always. It's Eastwood at his best, and it's probably the best movie he's put out in years.
I also think it's cool that I don't think we've seen this in a little bit, but if someone just slowly over time putting out such consistent work, even though they're so young, still, I mean, young, but when it comes to their career, that like Nicholas Holt is like slowly
Dude,
becoming a household name.
what a
Like,
year he had.
oh yeah, but like to more like casual movie fans, like I didn't really know who he was, but they've definitely seen stuff with him in it. Because the only thing I can people like if I was talking about Nosferatu and they'd be like, "Who's that guy? Who's the main guy that's in it?" And I'd be like, "It's the guy covered in white paint from Fury Road."
Yeah,
Like, and they're
yeah,
like,
yeah,
"Oh, okay," but they don't
yeah,
know anything else from
yeah.
you can't really pick him out of a lineup with other stuff. Even though if you're like a big time moviegoer, he's been in so much good stuff. But definitely on my list. I was gonna check it out. I couldn't find like a great time when it was limited, and then I
I
was
think it's
gonna
on
do a
Max now.
review.
So if
Yeah, I
you
was
have,
gonna do a review when it
yeah,
dropped on Max, and then it was just like other
I
stuff.
get
So
it,
much
man.
stuff was coming out at the end of the year.
Yeah, yeah. December's a tough month.
Yeah, for
December's a
sure.
tough month. All
But
right.
I
Well,
actually
what
think it
you
might
got?
have been the best one. Like it's possible that December had some of my favorite movies the
Yeah,
entire year. So it
yeah. I think
was a
mine's
good
yeah.
one.
Well, so what you got number 4?
Number 4 might be my hottest take because I haven't really seen too many people talk about it in the top 10. But number 4 is The Bike Riders for me.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that movie. I thought it had a lot to say and it was really cool. It felt like a time capsule Americana classic
Sure.
where like you'd watch it alongside like Easy Rider, and the type of movie that your father would make you watch when you were way too young if it came out like 40 years prior.
Yeah.
But I think it's the best work in a world where it's actually kind of disheartening to look up his IMDb page, but in a world where like in the last 5 years, I think like 4 out of the 5 roles Tom Hardy's given us have been Venom films.
Is it
Um,
is it right?
he
Wow.
hasn't been in very much. I would fact check me on that, but there hasn't been much out of him. Um, but
He's
this
just
is the
showing he's
best.
just showing up to jujitsu tournaments and winning those
Literally,
randomly.
which,
Yeah.
you
Okay,
know,
cool.
go off, dude. But um, this is the best acting he's done in like a half decade at least.
Yeah. He's
I
great,
loved
dude. He's
him.
great in he's even great in the Venom movies, and those movies are terrible.
Yes. I loved him as, like, kinda like the gruff leader, and I think there's a real cool contrast between, um, you know, people that wanna join up his motorcycle gang thinking that he's, like, some hard, tough guy, and then you also find out that he was just idolizing movie stars he saw on the TV, like tough guys that he wanted to act like, that he wasn't getting the respect like that or didn't see himself like that in his real regular life, so he was
Yeah.
gonna emulate that with other guys around him, and, Austin Butler and Jodie Comer are good in it too. And the last, like, kind of the twist at the end with him with
Yeah.
Hardy, I think kind of leaves a really, really nice impact.
Yeah. Yeah, I gave, I think I gave it like a 7.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed it,
Yeah.
but, I mean, there's so many comments of people that are like, "The most boring movie
Yeah.
ever."
I clearly
So,
like boring movies. That's what I'm gaining from this, you
I
know?
guess, man. I sometimes I'm like, I question people. I'm like, "Why what was boring?" Like, if you said Den of Thieves 2 was boring, totally get it. It
Yeah.
was. There was a lot of unnecessary filler, a lot of story going on that really doesn't do much. But with the bike riders, I felt like every scene was kind of necessary,
I also
you know?
don't get it because it's like if someone told you that story audibly at a bar
You'd be
of the bike
enthralled.
riders, you'd be locked in.
Yeah. And it's based
So
off of like a photograph book or something, right?
so Jeff Nichols, his he grew up and his brother
I love
loved.
Jeff Nichols.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
But he grew up and his brother loved that there was a book. It was kind of similar to like the Hunter F. Tompkins Hell's Angels thing. But
Thompson.
he grew up with this book, this coffee table book of this photographer that rode around with this notorious motorcycle game in the 60s
Right.
and 70s and kind of chronicled everything that went down with them and how stuff changed over the decade. And he loved that book so much that he wanted to adapt kind of his own version into a film, and I think he did a
Yeah.
really good job with it.
I loved it. I loved it. So my number 4, I had Wicked. I know we talked
Mhm.
briefly about that. That was just honestly that was the biggest surprise of the year for me, kind of like Godzilla minus one. You know, it
Yeah,
was I know your issues with it, and like I had no context walking into the movie. I never saw the play. I'm actually, ironically enough, I'm reading the book now, and it couldn't be more different than
yeah,
the movie. It's actually wild, dude. It's an insane book.
yeah. I
Uh,
actually didn't even know it was a book, to be honest.
well, yeah, it's so the play is based off the book, but the book
Yeah.
is it's written in a very specific prose, and
Mhm.
it's wild, dude. There's like
Yeah.
orgies and foul language, and it's not at all
Was
the
not
movie
expecting
that we
that because it's painted
I
as
mean, it
kind of like a
has
very family friendly,
no,
you
it's not
know?
family friendly at all. In fact,
Yeah,
it's
that's
pretty rated
interesting.
R,
Yeah.
but it has a lot of the similar happenings. You know, they go to
Yeah.
Shiz University, the animals are losing their abilities to speak.
And that's something I
Oh,
totally forgot about, honestly, over the years. I forgot about that part of it.
yeah, so they have a lot of a lot of the same things. Her name's Galinda, and then just changes
Yeah.
it to Glinda. But
Yeah.
in the book, she changes it because the what's his name, the goat professor,
Mhm.
played by what's his name, Peter Dinklage. He gets his throat slit, and so
Mm.
he gets killed. He gets murdered, and so Galinda's like, "Oh well, I just go by Glinda now." So
So is
in
that
honor of Doctor Dorman or whatever his name
so is
is.
that what happens instead of him, like, getting arrested and, like,
Yeah,
staging a coup, kinda, he gets killed?
he gets killed.
Yeah.
No, anyway, side that was a off
No, I
topic,
needed I
but
needed that info.
it's dude, it's I'm telling you, if you can if you're able to, because it's not it's written in a very odd prose, a lot of
Yeah.
big words, you know, things like that. It's not a typical read. Like I figured it would have when I opened it up, I was like, oh, I'm gonna be reading the same thing. And then I was like, what is this
Yeah.
is the same book? It's
Yeah.
crazy, dude. Anyway, so the movie itself, I like I mentioned, I walked into it with my daughter. We saw the early screening. And I remember, I think it was like the last song. I looked over at her and she was just like tears coming down
Bawling.
her face.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, you know, she's 12. So
Yeah.
I asked her, I said, "You okay, honey?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I asked her afterwards because she was very affected by you know, Elphaba's this good person who got done so wrong by the
Yeah.
government essentially.
Yes.
And they turn her wicked. So she just was like, she's like, dude, she got done, she got did wrong, you
Yeah.
know. She was real affected by that and the friendship that she had with Glinda. And then the last song, is really, really, really done well. I was actually impressed with Cynthia Erivo's vocal abilities. I had no idea like that gal could sing like that. Because I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, you walk into the movie, you're like, I know Ariana Grande can sing. Like I've heard her sing before. That girl's got a big voice and a tiny
Yeah.
body. But I was real impressed with Cynthia Erivo. But what I liked about the movie is there's so many bright colors, big sets that they built. It just to me had the magic of the movies, pun not intended.
Mhm.
But it was just one of those movies where I was glued to the screen the whole time. I was invested in the story. Some of the songs I could have lived without because I'm not the biggest musical fan, but some of the songs were great and they're stuck in my head to this day. So it was just to me it was the best movie experience probably I had all year. Um, and I know it's not the same for everybody, but it was just one of those where I couldn't have cared less. If you told me
Yeah.
it was great, I'd be like, yeah, I know you like musicals. And then I walked out, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
That was a good experience for me. So
Yeah, you gotta love when that happens.
yeah, man. So we're at number 3. What you got?
Number 3 is where I have Furiosa.
Okay.
Yeah, really dug that. Love forget the Thunderdome one, but really like all the other George Miller Mad Max movies.
I have a soft spot for
Do
Thunderdome.
you? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it when I was 10 or something.
Yeah.
So that movie's one of those like Hook. I grew up watching Hook, and
Yeah.
when the kids want to go back and watch it now, I'm like, I don't want to watch it because I don't want it to ruin all
That
that.
movie for me is Johnny English, but I still think it slaps. So
That's fair.
Um, so yeah, no, really like this one. George Miller, I love that he kind of like makes these expensive movies that really seem like every dollar is appearing on screen.
Yeah,
He spares no expense for this wasteland kind of stuff. I like that it was a change of pace from Fury Road was just breakneck speed. This one gives you so much more lore about the
yeah,
wasteland and the area around them and Furiosa's transformation.
yeah. They developed a
Um,
lot of the character in this one.
yeah, and I think Hemsworth, if anyone needed more convincing, like Hemsworth proves he doesn't have to just be like a Marvel, good-looking buff
He's great, man.
superhero. Yeah, he rocks this movie big time. Um, and it still has that quirky comedy weirdness, with like the little guy in the back of the
Yeah,
highway chase and everything. Like there's just so much weird stuff that they throw at the wall, and it just adds to the whole quirky world building.
yeah.
And sucks that this movie bombed because I need
I
that
know.
next Tom Hardy Mad
Yeah, they're
Max movie.
saying that's it. Uh,
Well, do you hear what the hot take is that so you see the George Miller's meeting with Kevin Feige to direct the next Thor?
oh, that's awesome. I didn't see that.
So the word on the street, the conspiracy theory is that he does Thor, he makes a ton of money, and he spends it on Mad Max.
I I'm here for it.
So me
Anything in
too.
that world because I honestly was like I wasn't really if you were to go back to like my top 10 movies of the year, I wasn't Furiosa wouldn't have been on there, but I ended
Yeah.
up I'm like he's at that point for me where I'm like I can't doubt anything he does anymore. Like
The only
I just know
thing
it's gonna be great.
is I really wish I could have seen what it would look like if you hear how the original casting of kind of the Mad Max guy that helps her out in the whole movie was supposed to
Yeah, I was
be
curious who that was supposed to
it was
be. Was that
supposed to
Mad
be
Max?
well, I think not that. I don't think that's supposed to be Max. It's supposed to be just be like some rando
Okay.
like highway guy, but it was originally supposed to be Yahya Abdul Mateen, who I really like.
Yeah, I like him too.
And he there's like scheduling or something, but I actually think that the guy that filled in for him did a really good job.
Yeah, he was great. He was great.
But
Well,
yeah,
cool.
good
Number
movie.
3, I got Nosferatu. I
Hmm.
know we talked on it a little bit, but it's so funny that that's ended up being just one of the most, I guess, like general divisive movies of this past year. People love it or hate it. I haven't really heard some people. I haven't really heard anybody be like, it was okay. It was just.
Yeah.
I talked to one of my buddies. He was so stoked for it, and then he texted me and he's like, yeah, man, that was a giant piece of shit. uh, I was like, no, I mean, visually, were you at least? He's like, oh no, I mean, all
Yeah.
the accolades that they get as far as cinematography and just the
Yeah, well
overall look of the
deserved.
film is fantastic. He's like, I just wasn't meshing. But have you ever seen the original 1922
I did.
Nosferatu?
I haven't seen the Werner Herzog, but I saw the 1922 one.
It's basically like not shot for shot, but it's essentially the same movie. Like he takes every aspect
The
of that.
Herzog one?
No, 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 the 1922.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a complete retelling.
Yeah.
It's, obviously with better visuals and,
Yeah.
it's made 120 years later or
And
130 years
focuses,
later.
like, a lot more on the female character and
Yeah,
her kinda gaze.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I loved it. Everything about that movie was great. I mean, obviously, it's not really a horror movie. It's a gothic
Yeah.
horror. People don't really mesh with those connections. But I thought Lily Depp Rose was fantastic.
Yeah.
Nicholas Holt was great. The only person, and I do agree, is a lot of people weren't in on Aaron Taylor Johnson's performance. They thought he was just ham fisted, over the top, shticky in that. And I was like,
Yeah, he
yeah,
was
kind of fit
alright.
his character though.
Yeah. Willem
Um,
Dafoe makes up for it, though,
yeah.
so
So like I saw it on a screener early on, and then I wanted to go see it in the theater, so I went to the theater by myself. And I mean, there had to be at least 8 people that got up and walked out of it. So,
It's
yeah,
funny, I haven't seen that many walkouts lately. I'm in the theater a lot,
dude,
and I haven't
did you
seen too
see
many.
Joker 2?
So I was celebrating my 30th. I was in Germany at Oktoberfest. So the
Oh,
week that
wow.
came out, I didn't go. And but I heard so much turmoil. Actually still haven't seen it. Like I was waiting for my wife to watch it because
Oh,
we
man.
watched the first one in theaters. I can't remember. I mean, this one I'd have to see that it's not appearing on your list right now. So I'm assuming you did not like it.
Joker 2?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So I
That's
got to check it out just because
You
like I was
have
saying earlier,
it's a movie. I've actually said this. I said, "It's so bad, I want people to watch it."
it's one of those things though, like I was saying earlier though, like about not really wanting to review 2.5 out of 5-star movies. Like this is what excites me. This people saying this is a masterpiece or saying like this is the biggest piece of shit they've
It's
ever seen in their entire
it
life.
it's
Like,
I thought it was absolute ass.
yeah.
It's well, it's just like when you go and you hear about how the movie came to be and then kind of their philosophy going into it. It's like Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix were like, yeah, they gave us a bunch of money and we just want to say fuck you to everybody. And that's totally what that movie felt like.
The
So
Joaquin
anyway,
Phoenix shine is wearing off a little bit for me. I'm not gonna
it
lie too.
I think I'm kind of there with you. And in this movie, what's funny is the movie. I was, obviously it's 2.5 hours. It's mind numbing. Like you want it to end. It's so bad, dude.
Yeah.
But when I saw it in the theater, I saw it at the early screening, and there was a bunch of people dressed up at Joker stuff, and everyone's all excited to see because
Oh
the buzz
no.
hadn't really materialized by then.
They didn't know what they were
But
in
I
store for
remember
yet.
about midway through the movie, there had to be 20 to 30 walkouts, right?
Wow.
And
I'm
there
mad
was
I
just
didn't get to
no
see that.
excitement. There was this couple that was sitting next to me. They're like filming scenes and taking pictures.
Yeah.
By the end, they just got up and walked out too.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was one of those that was more entertaining to me than that movie was.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, Nosferatu's great.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, it is.
All right. So what you got at number two? Is that your
N
Nosferatu?
Yeah, number 2 is where I have Nosferatu.
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 Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, I mean, echoing everything what we said. Um, I've said previously, and I think this emphasizes it the most. I really think Robert Eggers is like, if you want to watch a Robert Eggers movie, it's because you want to see like what would a Wes Anderson movie look like if you listened to way too much Slipknot. And it's like a metal because he loves symmetry. He loves storybook almost kind
Yeah.
of ways
Yeah.
of telling tales, which I love.
Yeah.
I love that in both Wes Anderson and Robert Eggers, and he just
Yeah.
kicks it up to it's like an acid trip, like oil painting in Nosferatu, basically.
Where Wes
Um,
Anderson has all the pastels, Eggers comes in and is like, "Hey, I can make black
yeah,
super colorful."
yeah.
Yeah.
You want black or black?
Yeah, yeah,
And yeah, no, I thought it rocked. I saw it in like a rinky. The early press screening was at like a rinky dink one screen like 50-person theater. Didn't even have stadium seating, so it's like everyone like it's like I had a huge dude in front of me that I like quickly find a different seat right in the front row, or else I would have been missing like 30% of the frame because this guy's head in front of me.
right.
But it was a good way to see it on like a little indie theater screen. And yeah, I loved it. Eggers is instantly seated for any project he does.
Yeah. Yep, I agree 100% with that. Okay, let's see. At number 2, I had The Wild Robot. Did you get a chance to see that?
Yeah, that just squeaked out of my top 10.
Yeah, I think so. Kind of goes back to what I said with Wicked. I saw The Wild Robot at a early screening, and I was like, yeah, it looks good because the trailer was pretty. It was really hamming it up with the emotion of the movie.
Yeah.
But I was surprised by how nuanced and entertaining and well written, well rounded that movie was.
Mhm.
It took me by surprise. I think at the time, everything's kind of right now. You just see something and you're like, what is it, recentism? I was
Yeah,
like,
like
yeah, this
recency
is what it's.
bias.
Yeah, recency bias. I was very like I think that's one of the best animated movies I've ever seen. And then I've gone back and watched it a couple times because I got little kids, and yeah, it's one of the best animated movies I've ever seen. Just everything from what it's like to be a parent, you know, uh, taking on, yeah, finding yourself in a new world that you don't fully understand, um, developing that relationship, saying goodbye, reintroducing people. It had many many elements of that movie I liked, and plus it's just cute animals and great action. So that was one of those movies I couldn't rave enough about
Yeah, I
last year.
think,
Really,
DreamWorks has really been kicking it up a notch
they
lately.
have, they
I'm
have.
such a massive Puss in Boots: The Last Wish guy,
Love
so,
that movie, man.
um,
That movie blew me
so
away.
yeah,
Yeah,
me too. People thought I was crazy when that was on. That was very high up in my most
it
anticipated that year,
yeah.
and, yeah,
I
it did
don't think
not
it did
disappoint.
too well at the box office, but it was so good, man.
It made a little money. I just needed to make a little money so that Shrek 5 got greenlit, and we got
Yeah.
that, so,
Yeah, that's coming out,
um,
next year, right?
yeah, I think it got pushed again,
Yeah,
unfortunately, but yeah, no, I really enjoyed The Wild Robot. I didn't get to see that in the theater. I saw it at home, but it
okay.
definitely is emotional, and that scene is stuck with me where the first flight of the ducks, where she has to say goodbye to him,
Goodbye.
and
Yep.
like me and my wife were not saying anything to each other watching the movie, and then we both turned and we were like both like very emotional.
Yep.
It creeps up
Def
on you.
Yeah, it sure does. Sure does. Alright, so what you got at the top spot there, my man?
Top spot had to go to Dune Part Two.
No secret here,
I
me too.
Yeah, so I'm just like such a sci-fi head.
Me too.
I read the book, um, really enjoyed that, and seeing it play out on the big screen was awesome. Um, was addicted to Austin Butler's performance in that. It was the most out there and ridiculous thing against type thing that he's done in his entire
Yeah,
career. Um, Villeneuve is just like a genius behind the camera.
really
All
is.
the infrared stuff, all the way the action was shot. Um,
Even just
that
simple special effects.
and like that Chalamet scene of him kind of like rallying the troops in the cave and kind of like
Awesome.
anointing himself as their leader is just like mind blowing. So
Yeah,
it was everything else. I was figuring out where to put everything else in this top 10 list. Like that from the moment I saw it, that was pretty much locked in as my number
yeah.
one.
I think that was the only 10 out of 10 I gave this
That
past year.
was mine as well.
Yeah, and, that doesn't happen often. I think the
Yeah.
other thing I gave 10 out of 10 was Shogun, but that
Hmm.
that to me is probably one of the best things that's come out in the last few years.
Yeah.
Did you watch the series?
I have not yet
Oh,
actually.
dude, I can't say enough good things about it. I
Yeah.
mean, but it's winning all the awards, so I guess they're saying it for me.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Dune Part 2 was my number 1 from this last year as well. Uh,
It's just so
just
good.
yeah, just like I don't know, I saw it twice in the theater, and I never see movies twice in the theater. It was big, it was loud, it was beautiful. The story, which I heard something funny that J.R.R. Tolkien, Frank Herbert sent the initial manuscript
What
of
did he say?
Dune.
It sucked or something?
Yeah, yeah, and J.R.R. Tolkien goes, I think the exact quote was, "I don't have anything nice to say, so I'm not gonna say anything."
Oh my
Like,
god. It's
so
crazy.
yeah, man. But, what's funny is, have you read all the Dune books?
I've only read one, which
Okay.
encompasses the first 2 movies,
Yeah,
but
yeah. So they get insane,
yeah,
and
I've heard that.
yeah, I've read them. I read them once when I was, like, in my early 20s,
Yeah.
and I remember when I got to the last book, you're kind of like, "What the actual fuck is happening right now,
Yeah,
which
I've
I
heard
like about it
they
because it's not like the movie takes place right after or the book takes place right after what happened. It's
yeah,
not like the book takes place a couple years. It's like, no, we're gonna do this 1,000 years after this last incident happened.
yeah.
So it's wild, man. I know that they're gonna do Children of Doom, which takes place, I think, 13 years after the last one leaves off, and then if they do the one after that, I think that takes place like 1,000 years later or something
Well, I think
insane.
they're going straight to Messiah next, right? Or something like that?
Is that what they're? I think so. I think you're right.
Maybe.
I
I'd
think
have to
you're right.
check, but, I know that the studio wants them to make a ton of them, and Villeneuve said he's
Yeah.
done after this next
No,
one, but
you're right. Messiah is the third. Was the second movie.
might technically be the
Third movie.
second, even though third movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm confusing the numbers there, but yeah, you're correct. So Messiah takes place 13 years
I've
after.
also seen no other iteration though, like, I'm scared to watch what's his name?
David Lynch.
The David Lynch one, yeah.
Oh man, it's so great.
Is
It's
it
80s.
actually great?
It's 80s cheese, dude. It's horrible,
I saw there was
but there's
a
so many people, like, when I reviewed the newest Dune, they're like, "I hate this version, like, give me David Lynch's version."
that's
But there
crazy.
it's got its fans. I mean,
Yeah.
it has a lot of the story elements in there, but in a very David Lynch way, uh, and it's super 80s, like,
There is a fan cut that I really wanna watch where it's, like, 3.5 hours long, and people incorporated, like, all the deleted scenes, and people, like, built the
oh
CGI
oh,
to, like,
wow.
finish it and stuff. So there's, like, a super cut of the David Lynch, so I actually kinda do wanna watch that, but,
Yeah. I
um,
mean, I recommend it, man. It's fun to
yeah.
watch, just to
It's
say
just
he's
crazy. He was a crazy choice for that movie.
that I mean, that's exactly why I think the movie bombed.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
but
this
alright, so
Dune, very good.
very good, very good.
Incredible.
Obviously, we loved it. It's our favorite. Both of us are in agreement. That's our favorite movie from last year. All right, so let's. I wanted to go through the top. I mean, we don't need to do top 10 as in depth, but I can just we can just kind of round them up real fast of our
Sure.
worst movies of 2024.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
so I could kick that off while you pull yours up. At number 10, I had Night Swim, which I
Mhm.
mentioned to you earlier. It's a 10-minute movie that plays out for 90 minutes.
Gotta love that.
About a haunted swimming pool. I mean, that's all you
Yeah.
really need to know. And then plus they had what's his name, uh, Wyatt Russell in it, and he's so the character and lines that he's given is so bad that you're just like, dude, this guy's a great actor. What are we
Oh,
doing?
that's too bad because I really like him.
I like him a lot, dude. I think he's
Yeah.
great. But
Side
man,
note,
this movie,
are you a big Black Mirror guy?
yeah, yep.
Because I always go back and forth. His Black Mirror episode where he does the play test might be my
Oh yeah,
favorite
that one's
ever.
great.
I
Yeah,
love
that
that
was
one.
great. I think that was kind of one of the first introductions I had to him. I think.
Me too. I think that might have been my first. It was like
Yeah.
that and Everybody Wants Some.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So yeah, what you got at number 10?
Number 10 is that movie I was talking about, Founders Day.
Okay. All right.
Um, oh, you know what? Wait, sorry. I went backwards. That's actually my number 1.
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
went
spoiler
backwards.
alert. No.
Yeah, I went backwards. So my number 10, let's see.
'Cause you
Uh,
weren't able to make a worst of list, right?
well, I didn't do a video. I have
Yeah.
my like I do a letterbox. I have a ranked of
Okay.
every movie, like just to keep the year by year, but I didn't do a top 10 worst. Sitting at my number 10 spot is the Garfield movie
Okay.
with Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
Um, it's not really for me anyway. Like I'm not like
Uh,
a massive Garfield guy, but it seemed so far from the subject matter, and it was like
yeah.
everyone was kind of phoning it in vocally.
Oh yeah.
The animation was nothing to write home about, so I was like, "Whatever."
Yeah. I remember you hated it. I didn't hate it, but I
Yeah,
did. I saw early screening. I brought the kids to it. They all loved it. So
yeah.
whatever. It's fine. I don't but
Hey,
honestly,
sometimes that's what it's all about, you know?
yeah. Yeah, honestly, I mean that movie came out what, like 6 months ago. I don't remember a
Yeah,
thing about it. So
exactly. I would have forgot that it existed if it wasn't on my list.
fair enough. All right, number nine, I had two Netflix movies. It's kind of a 9A, 9B. I had Atlas and Rebel Moon Scargiver.
Mhm.
I don't know if you saw either one of those, but Atlas was like you can't convince me. Are you aware of that movie?
I
Or it's
watched it.
honestly
It's a tiny bit higher up on my list, like, enjoyment-wise, but it's
oh,
still
okay.
very low, you
Yeah,
know?
I'm not convinced that AI didn't write that movie.
Right.
It was like the video game Titanfall
Which I
with
love.
yeah, if everything about that game sucked.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
it was it was clearly they threw tons of money at it. They had decent actors in it. It had a cool premise,
Yep.
and it was just a brutal watch.
Yep.
And then
I think we need to
I
get J-Lo out of movies, to be honest, but
what well, yeah, I don't
so
disagree fully with you there. Although The Cell is fantastic if you've never seen it.
I have not
Totally
seen
not a
that.
J-Lo movie. What? You
I
haven't
have
seen
not
it?
seen that.
Dude,
No, I
watch
have
that.
not seen that.
You're a
Okay.
sci-fi guy, watch it.
Yeah.
Did you ever see The Fall?
Who's in that? How
Lee
long ago are we talking?
Pace, it's directed by Tarsem Singh. Anyway, so this is his first American flick. He's an Indian director,
Mhm.
and it's, um, Vincent D'Onofrio is a serial killer,
Oh,
and
okay.
J-Lo and Vince Vaughn work on the police department, and they develop a technology to where, they capture the guy, but they don't have any evidence that he's actually the killer, so she's able to basically Inception go into his brain
Mm.
see a lot of the stuff that he's doing. Dude, it's a wild movie, but it's
Alright, I'll check
awesome.
that out.
It's the least JLo movie ever. But anyways, I thought Atlas was terrible.
Yep.
Dialogue, I swear Chat GPT wrote that entire movie because
Yeah.
by the end of it, it's like the whole time in that movie, it's like a precautionary tale. Don't trust AI. Don't trust AI. And then by the end, they're like, oh no, AI has feelings. It's cool.
Yeah.
Like we're all good.
Right.
And then Rebel Moon Scargiver. I mean, the first one was bad, and then I was like, I can't believe they're making a second one. And then the second one is just as bad, if not worse.
Mhm.
And it regurgitates almost exactly the same thing from the first movie. And like they bring back the villains they kill, and then they have a exposition dump scene in the middle of the movie for each character to basically go through their backstory. And
Mhm.
it was one of the most painful things I watched all year. I
God.
couldn't believe how bad that movie
I
was.
didn't watch the second one.
Yeah, you didn't miss
Um,
anything.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I told myself that if I was ever bored, maybe I'd watch, like, even though it might just be a gimmick, but maybe I'd
Yeah,
watch the director's cut one just because
yeah,
I'm like, maybe this is how it was supposed to be intended, but,
yeah. But he got
um
all the money from Netflix to make his own Seven Samurai Star Wars.
right.
Yeah. So
So, yeah, but I don't
anyway,
know.
what you got at
It's
number 9?
number 9, I have Drive Away Dolls,
Oh,
um,
yeah, yeah.
which
That was probably my most disappointing movie of
yeah, like one half of the Coen brothers. Felt like all the transitions from scene to scene were from like 2006 iMovie. Like
yeah,
you can't convince me that it wasn't like a first time director and
it was
somehow
really weird.
Coen put his name on it because it was so janky. I didn't find it that funny.
No,
Um,
it
and
wasn't funny at
honestly, like I
all.
said, I love the 90-minute movie, but this one might have moved too fast.
Yeah.
Um, and
Well,
you
they
know,
had what the problem is they had gimmicks in the movie
yeah,
that they kept reverting back to, and I was like, "It wasn't funny to begin with. Why are we
right.
keep"
At
Yeah,
least I'm
that
glad
movie was heartbreaking
I'm
almost.
glad Margaret Qualley got a different win in The Substance this year because that
Yeah.
was rough.
Yeah, that was rough. Yeah. Alright, moving on. Number 8, I got Craven. I know you haven't seen that, but,
Mhm.
that movie to me, it's destined to be on a worst of list, but I actually had so much fun watching it because it's so
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
It's just like the dialogue is unbelievable.
I do
The
wanna check it out
Yeah, the this
just for the hell of it.
yeah, I mean, there's some lines in there, man, where you're just like, I know that that movie was delayed and delayed and delayed, and I was like, "What did they work on?" Because
People keep
yeah,
posting that clip of, what's his
Russell
name? What's
Crowe.
the guy that plays the rhino?
Oh, I can't remember his name, but,
Nicola something or something,
yeah.
right? I keep
Yeah,
forgetting
I
his
can't remember.
name.
He was in,
He was the guy that was the lead in the Sopranos movie.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But so there's like that scene, their reaction scene where someone has to go to him and be like, "Hey, boss, like he got away," and he's like, "Arr!"
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. That and then there's lines like Russell Crowe is just like, "And that's why your mother died because she was weak." And he's like, "Let's go kill animals." And you're just like, "What is the" it's awesome,
yeah,
dude. In that sense, the movie's terrible.
yeah,
Anyway. So, yeah, yeah, that's it on Craven. It's a spectacle to behold, but, if you expect a good movie, you're gonna absolutely hate it, but,
yeah,
if you know that it's gonna be terrible, you're gonna have a lot of fun with it.
yeah. Oh well, I know it's going to be terrible.
Yeah,
My number 8 is the Netflix rom com A Family Affair. Did you
I
watch
never
that
saw
one?
it.
It's the
No.
one with Nicole Kidman and Zac Efron,
Ah, yeah, yeah,
where
yeah,
she's
yeah,
just like a mom and he's like a mega blockbuster superstar, and they have absolutely no chemistry together. They both look like they're made out of rubber, and
yeah.
it is like I will say, sure, she's a great person. Really not a Joey King fan in
No,
movies.
me neither. Me neither.
And she's the lead kind of in between these two. She's the daughter, and she also works for Zac Efron. Um, Not funny. Uh, like Netflix rom coms have really been not doing it for me lately.
Oh,
Like
dude.
even if it's not my favorite genre, I can always appreciate like, okay, that wasn't for me, but like that was entertaining for what it was, and that was
Yeah,
well made. They're getting so bad. Like
they
the
are, man.
one last year was my worst movie the entire year as well. That was like Reese Witherspoon and Ashton Kutcher. If you saw that one,
I don't
where
even
it was like it was clearly like a pandemic or like low budget movie to the point like they were falling in love like over FaceTime.
oh,
So there was no chemistry. They were never in the studio together. They were
yeah.
never in person.
Dude,
Um,
Netflix is just so like, when they hit, you're like, "Thank God with
yeah.
their movies, man." Uh, yeah. Yeah, anyway, continue.
No, so it's just like they have no chemistry. They look
Yeah,
awful.
yeah,
It's just like me and my wife, my wife likes that kind of stuff,
sure.
and she was like, "I can't wait for this to be over."
It's so
Um,
hard to the other thing that drives me crazy about rom-coms is, like, they used to be edgy, you know?
yeah,
And nowadays is everything plays it so safe, so the comedy aspect is completely lost.
right.
You're like, "Oh, that was I'm supposed to laugh there?" You know?
Bring
It's
me
just
back to the like
dude,
90s,
just bring
early
it back, like,
2000s,
just a
like
little
the Ben Stiller's rom-coms,
exactly.
like yeah,
If you throw something out there offensive, the only people that are offended are the ones that are gonna let you know on Twitter, otherwise everyone's gonna
right,
laugh. That's what makes
right,
comedy funny, so,
yeah.
anyway. So at number 7, I had Imaginary. I don't know if you remember this. It was a Blumhouse joint.
Oh,
It
okay. I was
it's
about to jump on you for a second because that Netflix came out with that anime one called The Imaginary.
uh-huh.
So I was like, I liked that one.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but
No,
yes, I did not watch that one.
this is a movie about, like,
The
the
teddy bear,
girl
right?
yeah, yeah, the teddy
Yeah.
bear, and, to Blumhouse's credit, they edit some cool trailers together. Because when I saw the trailer, I was like, "Alright, I'm intrigued. That looks like it was a really well done trailer," and the movie's so bad, man. It devolves into, like, old woman is giving you, the horror lesson at the end of the movie, sort of like poltergeisty sort of thing,
Yeah.
but it's so freaking funny and so bad. If you haven't seen it, don't waste your breath, don't waste your time.
Yeah.
It's 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 one of those movies that you watch and you're pissed off
Yeah.
through the run of it because for the first 30 minutes or so, I'm like, oh, cool. And then when things really kind of pop off, you're like, okay, now I'm mad at this movie and I'm gonna have a hard time moving past that.
You're
So
right though. They do know how to edit trailers well because
they do,
I knew it was gonna suck, but I did find myself at the trailer being like, okay, they teased it enough that I do want to see what that teddy bear monster like the
yeah,
reveal, what it looks like.
yep,
But
yep.
it's
But no, you
Blumhouse is
missed
gonna
nothing.
Blumhouse.
Yeah, yeah, that's too bad, man, because when they first started putting some stuff out with, like, a Sinister and whatnot, we're like, "Alright, cool. These
Yeah.
guys really gotta figure it out," but now they're just
Sinister
kinda
rocks.
yeah, now they're just kinda becoming a running gag almost, but
I mean, they've found their pocket. Like
they did.
it's like they spend like $1 to $5 million
Oh, I know,
on a horror
most of their
movie.
movies are profitable,
They
so
always make cash, but everyone always says they suck.
yeah.
So,
Nowadays, I mean, there was a
yeah.
period where they were almost like A24,
Oh, yeah, they were
before
like
it got crazy.
A24 horror. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, A24 with if they're not careful I know you liked Y2K, but I hated it,
I
so
liked Y2K, yeah.
yeah.
I know
Anyway,
that's a controversial one, but,
yeah.
um,
I just thought it tried way too hard. It
yeah,
just but I mean, I watched your review and I was like, I totally get where he's coming from. I just
but
uh
no.
I felt like it killed off the best character like really early on. I was like, he's the
Yeah,
only one that was bringing any levity to
I
this
agree.
entire movie.
I was not happy about them ditching him, but
Yeah. But anyway, all right. So what you got at number was it
number
seven?
7, I have another Netflix movie, that Kevin Hart heist movie,
Oh,
Lift.
dude, you know what? That was my number 11. So
Yeah, yeah, it's just like, I will say, we were talking about it earlier, Den of Thieves 2 looks like Heat compared
yeah.
to this,
Oh yeah.
because it's just every generic trope in the book.
Yeah.
The character development and motivations don't really make any sense. The action scenes aren't interesting.
No.
Um,
All the characters are unlikable.
all of them are unlikable,
Yeah.
and it actually had a pretty, when they're staying there, what they're good at, a pretty talented cast at their disposal, but
Yeah.
it was just slop.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw, but there was something that was floating around that Netflix executives have an ordinance in place where they tell directors that they are when you're making a movie, characters have to announce what they're doing for people that are
Yes,
like either scrolling on their phones or putting laundry away or whatever.
I
And I was
cannot
like,
detest that more.
that explains so much
Yeah,
because I feel like so much of what they put out now is literally just for someone to put on in the background while they're doing something else.
yeah,
Yeah, so
brutal.
that was definitely one of those movies.
That sums it up to a T.
Yep, and number 6 is one that we talked about a little bit in depth earlier is, Joker: Folie à Deux. It was the most unnecessary sequel probably ever.
Mhm.
It was like, the first Joker I loved. It coulda ended like that. It was nominated for all these awards. It was a Taxi Driver light, to
Yes.
use your terminology, but I found it to be a captivating, interesting, sad sort of movie, and it had the effect. It made $1 billion, and then this one rolls around, dude, and it's like off-key musical with songs nobody knows that go on for way too long. Harley Quinn doesn't even really like the Joker. I mean, everything they built up in the first one, this is kinda has the Last Jedi effect, where
Yeah.
they come in and go, "Oh, you like that thing, huh? Well, fuck that, it's not a thing anymore." So, it basically just completely deconstructs the first movie because I feel like it was almost like Todd Phillips was like, "Oh, everybody liked the character in the first one even though he's a bad guy. Let's flip that
Let's
narrative
change
on its
that
head."
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it was either the world's most expensive troll job or or just a pretentious piece of shit. You can choose which one.
Yeah. That's tough. I gotta
Yeah.
watch it.
You
I
got
do
it.
just,
You got
yeah,
it.
I gotta watch it.
Yeah. Have like a couple drinks or something before you
Yeah.
put it on.
Maybe more than a couple from what
Yeah,
I'm
there you go.
hearing. Coming in at number 6 for me is, Venom: The Last Dance.
Yeah. I figured you'd
Um,
have that on your list.
I think it was the worst of the 3. Um, Crazy exposition and, like, 30 minutes was spent just, like, watching him on a road trip singing Ground Control, Major Tom.
Yeah.
I don't know why any of that was happening.
Yeah, that was weird.
Um,
And then so one of my biggest gripes with that movie was the, Reese Ifans thing. I was like, "Oh, cool, they're bringing back the lizard," like, when you
no,
saw
he's
the
just a
trailer,
hippie.
and I was like, "Oh, he's just some random, like, save the trees dude in this
The
movie that."
there was some decent action in there, and I did
Yeah,
love that, like, these monsters, like, I thought it was very metal that, like, they spurted blood out of the back of their
yeah.
head, like, when they
Yeah,
ate
that's cool.
guys, I liked that, but other than that, I was like, "This is the worst of the all
Dude, the
3 of them."
dance scene, I know everyone's comparing that to the Spider-Man 3,
Alright.
emo
No, this
scene.
is way worse
It
than
is, I
that.
agree.
So,
I agree.
if especially if you think about what actually happens in the movie, like, you saw it, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So, like, you know how a massive plot point of the movie is that he can't transform into Venom, or he'll let all the bad guys know where
Yeah,
he
he has,
is, and
like
they to get the
yeah,
thing. And
it's
like
weird because
Venom,
Venom was the MacGuffin of his own movie. It was
but
really
then
bizarre.
the entire world as they know it that they're trying to protect is going to cease to exist if they get their hands on this thing. And he
Yeah,
deems dancing with this woman to be worth putting everybody's lives at risk.
right.
Like, what is going on?
Yeah,
So yeah, I thought that was ass. That was
yeah.
terrible.
That was so stupid. Yeah, that was dumb. And then, like, they rushed completely the ending of the movie. I was like, "Wait, what?" And then, what's his name? The person you thought was gonna be the villain the whole time is the Andy Serkis character.
He doesn't even get out of his chair.
Oh, doesn't get he's only in, like, the beginning of the movie and then the end credits.
I was also a little annoyed too going into it because I read somewhere, and I swear to God I didn't make this up. I really think it's somewhere on the internet, but I thought Norman Reedus was supposed to be the villain, and then
Really?
someone was like, "No, it's actually Andy Serkis," like right before it came out. So I don't know if there was some kind of weird thing, but
Hmm,
regardless, it makes that post credit scene look so stupid
yeah.
where they're like,
Andy Serkis directed the second one, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
which
that
also
was
was ass, but
oh, yeah. No. I mean, it's funny when those 3 movies, the first one's the best, and it's not even good.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
what I said about Venom 3 is, like, uh, those movies are hot pieces of shit, but they're entertaining. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, they are. They're entertaining movies, but
The
ugh.
first one is like a great 3 out of 5 movie.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
It was guilty pleasure fun, you
Yeah.
know? I don't mind the first one. I've seen it a few times,
Yeah.
but, yeah, the other 2, I mean, I don't ever wanna see
Brutal.
them again. Okay, so number 5, I had Unfrosted. Did you ever watch that?
No, I withheld.
Oh,
Yeah.
in any other year, I would have put that at number 1. It was just brutal, dude. It was,
Yeah.
and it's like, I love Seinfeld. Seinfeld's probably my favorite show of all time.
Yeah.
Um, it was his directorial debut. He has kind of an interesting concept of like the innovation of
Pop-Tarts.
Pop Tarts. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you had all these comedy legends, you got like Sebastian, what's his name? Yeah, whatever. But you had Jim
You had,
Gaffigan,
like,
Vince
Hugh
McCarthy.
Grant
You
as
had
Tony the Tiger.
Hugh Grant. I mean, you had an awesome cast. You had some comedy legends in there. Bill Burr's in there. He plays JFK. Like it has all these legends in there. And then when you're watching the movie, you're like, dude, this movie was written by a 5-year-old. Like I'm
Yeah.
convinced that the dialogue was written by one of his
Oh,
kids or something.
God.
Unbelievably bad.
Yeah.
Brutal watch. Not funny. Every cliche that you could ever think of like a 90s movie comedy just thrown out there. It was a painful watch. I think the movie's like an hour and 40 minutes, and it felt like it's like 3 hours to sit through.
Yeah.
I think I had to
Yeah,
I
I've
think I
heard
had to
that.
pause it and rewatch it like 4 or 5 times just to get through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ever watching that one.
No, you're good. You're good.
My 5 is Borderlands.
Yeah.
Just not fun to look at. Doesn't
No.
respect this. Doesn't just have the vibe or the entertainment of the source material. Wildly miscasted
Oh
characters.
my gosh. Kate Blanchett
Um,
looks like she would have rather been anywhere else but there.
and I really hated that they casted Kevin Hart where they did.
Yeah.
Um,
Jack Black
so
Jack Black's character was so unbelievably obnoxious.
um, the villain, what's that guy's name again? Like Edgar Ramirez.
Yeah, mhm.
I don't know if he's ever been in a good movie. That's my
You know
hot
what,
take.
I think you're right.
I remember actively thinking while watching it, I was like, "Has this guy ever been in anything that I've enjoyed?" And I don't know if he has. And Borderlands definitely not the one to change the tide. So yeah, I mean, for the same reasons that everyone says they don't like it, it's just
Yep.
it was like glittery diarrhea, basically.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, what was that, number 5? And number 4,
yeah,
I had Dear Santa. It was a Paramount Plus
right.
original with Jack Black, where a kid is dyslexic and writes a letter to Satan instead of Santa.
Mhm.
Written in part and directed by the Farrelly brothers, who haven't made a movie together in years.
Oh
Boston's
boy.
Own, right?
Yep.
And it is so bad. The kid actor in there, like, God bless him. I'm sure he's a sweet kid, but he's so rough to sit through. Jack Black is the only one that's semi decent, but the dialogue is so bad. The
Mhm.
things that go through, just nothing's funny. There's like, you know, he makes a guy who's paying attention to the kid have to shit and then locks the porta potty. Like just dumb little gags that go back and forth. They don't land. They're not funny. And
Yeah.
then the last 30 minutes of the movie, you're like, am I watching a different did they like film 2 different movies and combine them?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So yeah, it was a yeah, horrible movie.
Yeah, I've heard not great things.
Yeah.
My number 4 is Red One.
No, no.
Um, I'm going back to Boston Connection. I am embarrassed to
Chris Evans.
be associated with Chris Evans in any
He's
regard.
he's he's kind of in that category now, the Jared Leto camp of like,
It
I'm
is
tired of
wild.
watching him.
It is wild how after Endgame, his career has gone one way and Evans
Uh-huh.
has gone the complete other.
Yeah,
It's been
Chris Pratt and Hemsworth have kinda gone
yeah.
on the upper trajectory, and Evans is just like,
It's like you look at all these terrible straight to streaming movies that he's doing. Like Ghosted was before this,
oh, that
Gray
was
Man before that, and he's so lucky that he was in Knives Out. Like he is
yeah,
so lucky.
And it was, what
Um,
sucks too is the Gray Man book is awesome.
is it? I haven't read it.
Yeah, I've read there's like, I don't know, there's like 90 of them now, but the
Holy shit.
first few of those books are great.
Yeah, but so he is not doing himself any favors. I try not to be hard on child actors, but
Yeah, me too.
when it's
Me
a
too.
nepo baby, I sometimes can't help myself. The little kid in this is holy shit. I'm actually
What,
having
the
a
one who plays
flashback.
Chris Evans as a
No,
kid?
no, 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 no. The kid,
Oh, Chris
his
Evans
kid
as kid, yeah.
is
Yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel's son in real
Is it
life,
really?
and he was also in my worst movie last year. He was the kid in that awful Reese Witherspoon Ashton Kutcher rom com. So he's on
Okay.
my shit list big time.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
saying that, you know, I don't
Oh, that's fair.
discriminate here. Um, The Rock needs to be jailed at this point. Um,
Yeah.
and I won't hold it against Lucy Liu. I'm sure it was a nice paycheck for
Uh,
and J.K.
Jada
Simmons.
Shinko was fine.
Yeah, she was all right.
Yeah.
But it was just, like, ugly to look at, and it was, like, another one of those movies where you're like, "Wow, we could have had, like, 10 Godzilla minus ones for the
I
price of
know,
red one."
dude.
Yeah.
What was it? $250 million budget for
Something
that? No
vomit worthy.
way, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not great, but, I had an early screener for that, took the kids, all loved it. So,
Yeah.
what are
Yeah.
you gonna do? They all
I
did,
know.
all 3 of
I
them.
know.
'Cause usually
That's
my daughter,
crazy.
my daughter's a little bit older than the other 2, and so sometimes but she's still kind of at the age where you see a movie and you like it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember I liked movies until I saw Armageddon, and then I remember walking out of the theater going, "I think that movie sucked." I don't know though. Like everyone else seemed to really like it, but
Yeah. I
yeah.
can't remember.
But
I always forget. I have a movie that I always lock into as, like, my trust issue movie that I saw it, and I was like it actually might have been Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
okay.
That I was
Oh
like, "I
yeah,
love Indiana Jones so much that this has to be awesome," and then I'm like, "Wait, was that actually not awesome?"
it was not awesome.
It's good compared to Dial of Destiny now, I will
Oh
say
yeah,
that.
you're
There's
not
a little
wrong.
revisionist history there, but,
You're not wrong.
s
I try to forget that Dial of Destiny even exists.
give me the first 20 minutes, like, just the deep fake thing, I actually had fun with that,
Yeah,
but
that
other than
was fun.
that, get rid of the rest of it,
That was
but
fun. Even though it was so distracting.
so distracting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, so my number 3 is Madam Web,
that's mine as
which
well.
I'm sure that doesn't surprise anybody. That
Yeah.
what's so funny about that movie is that Dakota Johnson and Sydney Sweeney leaned so hard into how shitty that movie was that I feel
Mhm.
like like their careers have only blossomed because of it.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
fully they've I feel like their agents duped them into being into that movie that they thought it was going to be part of the MCU. It
Yes.
wasn't. And then when they caught wind of and saw the movie, they were like, "Oh, this thing is terrible."
What's
And
crazy to me though is like us, like you and me, average Joes, we so easily knew that it wasn't the MCU. Like, how the hell did they not know? Like, talk to anybody, ask a
yeah,
guy on the street.
dude, that's Hollywood. Those people just they live in their own little worlds. And you know what?
Clearly.
You know what's funny, man, is a lot of actors and people in the industry, they don't watch movies. They don't watch
Right.
TV.
Yeah.
They don't understand these things. So,
Yep.
um anyway, so what you got at number 3? Oh yeah, you got Madam Web too.
That's Madam Web as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So number 2 for me was Borderlands. Like I'm
Hmm.
with you on that. It's just it's not even a polished turd. It's like a turd dipped in yellow paint. Um, it was, it was colorful. I actually was excited to see it when I first saw the trailer. And then I
Yeah.
saw Eli Roth and I was like, huh, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic about this. And then some of the buzz was coming out and then I watched it and I was like, oh man, this is,
That was like a him directing that is almost like a David Lynch light version of
yeah,
the decision for him doing Dune. Like, I'm
sure.
like, I don't know why Eli Roth was doing this.
Yeah, but Eli Roth isn't necessarily a critically acclaimed director.
True, but
Yeah,
everyone kinda came together and enjoyed Thanksgiving, I think.
I loved
You
it.
know?
I
Yeah.
loved it. And,
Um,
what
but
was the
yeah, no,
Keanu
not good.
Reeves movie that he was in that he directed? I
Was
actually
that
liked that movie with,
was that
Ana de Armas and,
Knock Knock?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's another one too where I feel like I enjoyed it, and I'm seeing nothing but people saying, like,
Yeah,
"Remember how this is the worst movie ever
I
made?"
actually
I
thought
was
that
like,
movie was kinda fun.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was some of the worst classic Keanu Reeves acting ever,
Of
but that,
course,
like,
yeah,
kinda gives it its charm.
yeah. Yeah, you know what, man? I've worked on a lot of movies, and I worked on, what was it called? It was a David Ayer movie with Keanu Reeves, Street Kings.
Mm,
See that? It's like
I
Hugh
did not see
Laurie,
that.
him, Forest Whitaker. Anyway, at the time, it was called The Night Watchman, but Watchmen was being made by Zack Snyder, so they ended up changing the name of it to Street Kings. And I got to watch Keanu Reeves work, and I was like, I've been around a bunch of actors. He's the most professional actor I've ever seen on set, ever.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
Yeah, he seems like a very clock in, clock out kinda guy, so
Yeah. Very professional, like really respects the craft. And it's like, I know that he gets shit on for not being a great actor, but it's like, who doesn't like Keanu Reeves at this point?
yeah, wow, you got to watch Shadow the Hedgehog work, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Too much exposition on his character in that movie, but that's
Yeah.
beside the point.
Street Kings is
Uh,
probably a better name
yeah,
than The Night Watchman, I think,
I
but,
agree. I agree. Okay. Yeah,
um,
we said all we need to say about that movie. It sucks.
yeah, my number 2 is another Netflix movie. It's SpongeBob SquarePants Saving Bikini Bottom.
Okay, I didn't watch that. That was the Sandy.
The Sandy Cheeks movie,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um,
I heard
I
but bad things about
I
that. And
really
Megamind. I didn't
hate
watch the Megamind either.
oh, I didn't. I heard that would easily be on my top 10 though, if
Uh-huh.
yeah, but I really hate I don't know if it's just like, is it cheaper? I don't know what they're doing, but why every SpongeBob thing that Netflix has control of, they do this like 3D
I don't
animation.
like it. It takes
I don't
away
like it.
from what SpongeBob
It
is.
looks boring. It looks overly clean. Like I like
Yeah,
the hand drawn stuff, and I'm a massive SpongeBob guy. Like it was on
okay.
my house every day when I
Yeah,
was
I was gonna
growing
say
up.
that's you probably grew up watching SpongeBob,
I
right?
watched it so much that before cell phones and everything, like me and my buddy, he'd be in his house, I'd be in my house, and there'd be like episodes that we would really like, and each of us, like the phone would ring instantly the second one got announced, like that a certain episode was going to be on TV, being like, "Yo, this is coming out at like 6:30, so like make sure you're watching." So like we
Yeah.
were obsessed with SpongeBob, but this one is like it's not funny. It's very cringe inducing with the way they clearly try to recapture the magic of how funny it was in that first SpongeBob movie with David Hasselhoff playing like being
Yeah.
himself in live action, and they do way too much live action stuff with the CG characters in this, and it's just not a good story. Um, it's just like I'm trying outside of mentioning it on my bottom 10 right now, I'm trying to forget that it ever was made.
Fair enough. And there's a new one coming out this year too, isn't there?
Which I heard leaked and people said is actually good, but
I'm
who
sure. I
knows?
mean,
It's like a plankton one or something.
it's gonna go back into the theaters, right? So
I
I
have
think
no
that's
idea.
yeah, I think the new one's gonna be a theatrical
Yeah.
release because I know the last actual like full length movie was during COVID, so they just put it on Paramount Plus or whatever. So,
Mhm.
all right, so let's get down to number one. I have The Crow. Um, this is not only the worst movie of the year; it's the movie I hated the most
Mhm.
because I loved the first one. I know it's not a perfect movie; it's very '90s, but it's like they took the character. It's because what was funny is I saw what's his name, Rupert Everett.
Yeah.
He was talking about it. He's like, "Oh, this is going to be a more book friendly one. You know, we're going to base it more on the book than the other movie." And then I watched it. I was like, "No, you didn't. Like, you didn't even go close to it. It was like it was like a dude cosplaying as Eric Draven with zero of his characteristics. It was like they missed the point of the book and the original movie altogether. It was like
Mhm.
he was against the drugs and like the corruption and stuff, and this one he's just like a massive drug addict. I was like, oh, it's awful, man.
I
It's
saw
one of those movies.
another I saw another thing talking about how, like, they changed the character. I actually hand up, showing all my blind spots today, I've not seen The '90s Crow,
Oh wow, you should
but,
watch, man.
I know
Especially with all the
people have
controversy surrounding it.
I know, definitely now, but people do love it. So it's been on my list for a while, but I know that they said like the director was like, "Oh, this is updated to the modern times. Like we want people to see themselves in the main character." And then they just made him look like the most like Machine Gun Kelly emo
Yeah,
looking
dude.
guy of all time.
And then like his relationship with the girl, like all they do is just like drugs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like and then, when they get killed, you're just I don't know, man. It's like 2024 to a T,
Yeah.
it's let's take something that doesn't need to be remade, put our own spin on it and just piss everybody off. And
Yeah.
it was like the perfect example of
Sounds
that.
about
So
right.
yeah, so it's one of those movies like when I told you with Imaginary, like this is a movie I was mad at from the get-go. Like from the
Yeah.
first scene. And what's funny is that I have Bill Skarsgård movie at my top 3 and then
Yes.
the number
And
1
your
worst movie of
bottom.
the year. So
Yeah.
it's he's a versatile actor.
Clearly. Yeah, I already revealed it. My number one's Founders Day.
Yeah, Founders Day.
It's just terrible. It's like laughable dialogue. Like, low budget, but to the point that it must have been filmed on, like, a camcorder. I can't even believe it made it to theaters. Like, that just shows you how desolate January can be sometimes. Um, yeah. It was one of those, it was another one of those, like, mystery movie Mondays. So, like, I would have never seeked it out or seen it if that didn't happen. And,
Yeah.
it is just like, no one is gonna launch a career off of that. Um, Not a fun or twisty story, not entertaining. Um, yeah, just not. No
It's not it.
redeemable qualities, really. Yeah.
All right, man. We've been chatting for 2.5 hours, so I'll try to wrap these ones up relatively quickly. So let's just move on to, or if you want to throw a few movies out that you thought were overlooked that some people should probably check out, I mean, that would be probably be a good time.
Yeah, I'll throw out a few.
We could
I've
just
got, like,
we could go down it
5.
relatively quickly, and then we'll do the most anticipated movies, and then we can wrap this
Yeah,
bad boy.
I'll rip through, like, 5 here, which would
Sure.
be Snack Shack,
Yeah.
which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too.
Um, Mars Express.
I didn't see
Um,
that.
it's like a you'd like it as a Blade Runner guy. It's like a French, animated sci-fi
Okay.
Blade Runner Terminator mix.
Okay.
And it's the visuals rock. It's like quick. I honestly think it might also, yeah, it's net sub 90 minutes.
Okay.
But even like, did you ever watch Scavenger's Reign on
Oh yeah, I
Max?
love that show.
It's like that. It's like a movie
Yeah.
version of that, but like instead of them going to a foreign planet, it exists on their high-tech planet that they came
Okay.
from.
So
Um,
cyberpunky sort of
Very highly
vibe to
recommend
it.
it. World building is awesome, even though it's sub 90 minutes. You
Alright,
know
awesome.
exactly just from visual style.
Cool.
Caddo Lake on Max.
Love that movie.
Um,
Well,
yeah,
probably the best streaming movie I watched all year.
I think that's probably mine too.
Yeah.
Big Dylan O'Brien fan. I think he's kind of overlooked. Um, Nice and twisty. It's like you shouldn't know anything else about it other than like it's a good movie and it's also produced by M. Night Shyamalan. So that should tell you
Yeah.
everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Um, Hundreds of Beavers.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah, like that was just like a Looney Tunes cartoon in real life.
Yep. Silent movie.
So much passion put into that. Like there's low budget stuff in there that I have just no idea how they pulled off the
Yep.
stunts and the looks of. And it's super funny.
Yeah.
It's like it almost feels like you're watching a video game as he kind of like levels up over
Yep.
the course of the film. Really dug that. Um, the Coffee Table,
Yeah.
which is a foreign horror film that like is one of those kind of it's almost like a morality test. Like it's something absolutely horrific and awful happens in the beginning, and then the rest of the movie is kind of like you watching this guy try to piece stuff back together, and you're kind of like, what would I do in this situation
Uh-huh.
as things go from bad to worse? Um, my last two, I'll leave it as Ultraman Rising on
Okay.
Netflix.
Yep.
Awesome animated movie, super emotional, very wild robot, but like
Yeah.
like a more like full on sci-fi take.
Yeah. But Ultraman
Um,
has a bunch of, like, fans too before.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah, which
it's
I'm not a part of that fandom,
me neither.
but, this was very surprising and great animation. And then the last one I'll put is, did you watch, Kalki 2898 AD?
No.
It's a Bollywood movie, and it's the most expensive movie they've ever made.
Really?
And it's like their answer to Star Wars, basically, but mixed with their ancient mythology and
Oh, that's
beliefs with their
cool.
religion.
Hindu beliefs?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like about, gods and just it's about some wild, like mixing that with sci-fi, very prophetic. The lead star is very easy to root for. Unbelievable music, like incredible music in it. And like as I'm learning more as I watch more Bollywood stuff, they really treat their actors like WWE
Yeah,
superstars.
yeah.
Like they'll like walk into frame and they'll have like a theme song and like lights. Like it's like you're watching Monday
Freeze
Night Raw or
frame
something.
and yeah.
Yeah, like it's unbelievable. And there's cool action. It's totally one of those ones where if you go into it with the wrong mindset, you're gonna hate it.
Uh-huh.
But if you go in being like, I know this is gonna be kind of on the nose and ridiculous, and the effects are kind of supposed to look over the top, it's got a lot to offer. Like I remember it was when I was on that trip to Germany, I went to Turkey after, and I'd come home, and after getting off that plane from like 10 plus or actually, you know what? It was after I came back from my honeymoon and I was on a plane for like 10 plus hours. Instantly went to the theater and saw this because it was leaving the next day. And I was so tired. Felt like I was like going through some kind of fever dream while I was watching all these insane effects and action sequences. It honestly was probably the best way to watch it.
That's awesome.
So highly recommend. I think it's on Prime now.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
it's
I'll check
cool. I
that out.
mean, they do a lot with a little. Like I think it was their most expensive movie ever, but it still was like nothing in comparison to
Oh,
the
yeah, I'm
budget that
sure.
we put on shit now. But
I'm sure.
um, yeah, I think there's going to be another one.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'm into it.
I love it, dude.
Yeah,
I'll quickly go through some of mine. I had a breakup season. Have you heard or seen that?
I
It
know what
was
it
a
is. I haven't seen it.
straight to streaming movie, no buzz around it really. But it's little Carl from Walking Dead's all grown up now. He has a girlfriend, takes his girlfriend to meet the family during Christmas.
Hmm.
They break up the first night, and she's trying to leave the next night, and she gets snowed in. Airports are closed and everything,
Okay.
so she has to spend time with the family. And it's actually the dialogue's excellent, very well written. It's funny, it's heartfelt. The dad
Hmm.
in there is just sort of like one of those Christmas gems. Just the wise, masculine, not really masculine. He's like a wise, quirky guy telling
Hmm.
dad jokes every 5 seconds. And it was one of those surprising movies that I saw. So if
Okay.
anyone, especially like your girl, if she likes your wife, if she likes rom coms, she'd probably love
Yeah.
this because it's not like the feel good rom com, but it's also not the one that's just gonna make your heartache at the end. It's just sort of realistic in the way everything kind of goes about.
Yeah.
Really enjoyable. I also liked Your Monster.
Hmm.
Melissa Barrera, kind of a modern retelling of Beauty and the Beast. Like she gets over cancer. Her boyfriend breaks up with her. She finds a monster living in her closet. They end up falling in love. But there's twists and turns. It's pretty dark. There's some over the top violence and just a fun story. I had a really good time watching it. Another one was Knox Goes Away. Did you
Hmm.
happen to see that?
I didn't watch it. I know it,
Michael
but
Keaton, yeah, Michael Keaton directed and starred. He's a hitman who has an aggressive form of dementia, and he starts to forget like what he's doing during jobs, so he'll like shoot somebody and just leave him in the shower, like not fix the body, because he can't remember
mhm,
what's going on. So anyway, his his son, his estranged son, shows up, who just killed his son, just killed his daughter's boyfriend because he was abusing his daughter.
mhm,
And so Michael Keaton's trying to walk him through like the steps he needs to do and stuff like that while dealing with this dementia. It's a really good movie, actually.
yeah,
If it came out in the '90s, I guarantee it would have been like one of those movies people talk about for years. But because there's so much crap that comes out now, it just got overlooked in the shuffle. Another one was this movie called Coup with Peter Sarsgaard. It's
okay.
basically like Eat the Rich movie. He's a chef that goes,
Oh, yeah,
yeah, with Billy Magnuson during the
mhm,
Spanish flu, and he basically ends up leading a revolt to the guy. He's like a really well known journalist, and it's funny. It's very Cohen Brothers, like early Steven Soderbergh sort of feel to the movie. The ending's wild, so I recommend that one if you haven't seen it. It's a quick watch too.
mhm.
I also have Cuckoo. Did you happen to see that
I
with
did not. That was what I
Schaefer?
was meaning to see too, and I
Dude,
think I was
it's
away.
it's one of those movies that people are gonna love or hate. I say it's basically like if David Lynch were to direct an episode of The X-Files. It's
Mm,
weird. It kind of has a time loop thing going on that's not really clear, but some of the horror scenes in there were some of the best I saw all year. It's a really bizarre movie. Dan Stevens is awesome in it.
love him and
Yeah,
everything,
dude,
so
he's so good in that movie. And it gets wild like towards the end, but I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Another one is Late Night with the Devil. Love that
mhm,
movie. Um, it's funny because like in the film community, you and me have obviously heard about that movie ad nauseum, but if I bring it up
yeah,
to just normies out there, everyone's like, I never even heard of that film. So
yeah,
I put that on the list. The next one was probably the best horror movie I saw all year, Oddity. Um,
mhm,
it's a Irish horror film, really
yeah.
well done. I'm not a big fan of the jump scares, but they utilize them quite well in this. Another one was Kneecap. I don't know if you got a chance to see that, but it's like
No, I
it's
haven't
like
seen
the
that one either.
Trappers. Really good movie. Michael Fassbender's in it for a little bit too. Fun, funny, just a quick watch, lighthearted. Um, Yeah, that was a great one. Then Hundreds of Beavers, we talked about that.
Yep.
Love that movie. And honestly, what's so great about it is it's like Looney Tunes meets like, you know, old Charlie Chaplin films or something.
Yeah,
Just the silent film
definitely.
aspect of it. Awesome. Really quick watch too.
Yeah.
Strange Darling, which I loved. It was funny that like that I feel like that movie was big on Twitter, but nowhere else. I don't hear anybody talk
Yeah,
about it
I
anymore.
missed it too.
Dude, great movie. Awesome
Yeah.
movie. And it flips the whole narrative. It's non-linear in the way it tells the story, and it totally flips the movie on its head in the third act. And you're just kind of like, all right. So sometimes it takes a few swings and misses a couple times, but it's shot so well. Giovanni Ribisi was the cinematographer on it. It's all shot on
Really?
35. Yeah. Yeah,
Wow,
it's all shot
okay.
on 35 millimeter film.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a great movie. And the number one was Thelma. I don't know
Mhm.
if you saw that, but it was one of the most quirky, fun adventure movies of the year, and it takes place with the 95-year-old grandma. So
Yeah.
that was a movie I had no interest in seeing it, and it floored me.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. So
Yeah.
those are some movies. If you guys haven't checked them out, I highly recommend, especially you, man.
I know, yeah, I've definitely got some that I need to get back on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you had a busy year. You got married. You traveled a bit.
Yeah.
Life gets in the way sometimes, man. All right,
It
so I wanted to go
does.
over some movies we're looking forward to this year. What are some that you've got on your list?
Yeah, I've actually been so bad about keeping track of this, but I know
It's fair.
a couple is, top of the list might be Mickey 17.
Yeah.
Really
Yep.
looking forward to anything Bong Joon-ho and Pattinson.
Yeah.
I think that trailer kind of threw a lot of people for a loop because it
Yeah.
came off as much more quirky and goofy
Yeah.
than
It did. Well, I mean, a lot of his
much
stuff
more
does have a lot
Okja
of
than
yeah,
Snowpiercer, you
yeah. A
know?
lot of his stuff does have a lot of quirks to it, though.
Yeah.
Like even
Um,
Parasite. Parasite is, it makes a very bold statement, but there's a lot of quirky moments in that movie.
yeah. So that, um, the possibly final Mission Impossible movie,
Yes. Yes.
28
That
Years
trailer's
Later.
awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
trailer for that, and you just said 28 years
Yeah,
later.
and great trailer. Like, might be one of the best trailers I've ever seen for 28 Years Later,
Yeah, it's so good. I had no interest in it, and now I'm like all in. But apparently this is one of a trilogy now.
which I actually feel like I like less, but,
Me too. When I
um
found that out, I was like, I don't know. Let's just kind of wrap everything up. But
then the Brad Pitt F1 movie,
yep, I got that on my list too.
especially with the guy that directed Maverick, Top Gun Maverick doing that. I think that's
Yeah,
gonna be
Joseph
pretty cool.
Kosinski.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Joseph Kosinski. Um, this shouldn't be on my list, but it is, because I can't quit these. I do think with the cast and the director, and hopefully the direction I think it's heading, I am sneaky looking forward to that new Jurassic World movie.
yeah, yeah.
I think from a
Who-
popcorn movie
yeah.
standpoint,
Who's directing it? It's not Colin
Gareth
Trevorrow.
Edwards.
Yeah, Garrett. Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
I'll give him the
Which
benefit of the
which I
doubt.
will say I was not a what was the last one he made?
The creator.
I was not a creator guy, unfortunately.
I
Visually it was
I
incredible,
I
but
appreciate it more than I like it. Yeah.
yeah. Um Fantastic Four.
Okay.
Just because Fantastic Four, Daredevil, and Spider-Man are the comics I read the most as a kid.
Fair.
I still read Fantastic Four and Daredevil a lot. So that's one that I really can't have them muck up.
Yeah, and I'm
Um,
excited for Daredevil coming back too,
oh my god, I know. I
series.
think I still my hot take actually is those 3 seasons on Netflix are the best
Some of the best.
things Marvel's ever done, to be
Yep.
perfectly honest.
I don't think that's that hot a take. I'm actually
Yeah.
right there with you. Yeah.
Um, Looking forward to that new Predator movie.
Yeah.
Because Prey was awesome. It took everyone by surprise.
Yeah. I have
Um,
issues with it, but I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
and then the new Avatar, which I'm
Yep,
sure
I
will
got
be
that on
another
my
like
list too.
4 hours. And then I will end it with Del Toro's Frankenstein and
Yep.
the next Knives Out.
Okay.
Even
I
though I did
I
not love the second Knives Out,
I
but
I did not like that movie at all.
yeah,
But I like the first one.
yeah.
Yeah, so I have 28 years later, I got Mission Impossible. I got Wicked 2
Hmm.
now. I wasn't looking forward to the first, but now I wanna see how everything wraps up. Superman,
Hmm.
I know that's man, I put out a pretty viral post. I was just messing around. put like Superman. I've changed the trailer to Creed, and I can't believe how many people think this movie looks like absolute dog shit. But you're not gonna please everybody. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for it. I think I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt. I mean, obviously, I'm in the camp of Henry Cavill was done so dirty by DC through this because he was the perfect Superman.
Yeah. He was so
This
good.
dude looks a little too young. I'm not fully convinced he doesn't look as jacked, but I mean, these are little
And
gripes.
the
But
suit didn't really look like it fit
yeah,
100%,
it kind of
but,
it looked a little like kids' PJs. I,
yeah.
I agree with people on that. Looking forward to the Running Man,
Mhm.
John Powell
Yeah.
remake of that. I guess remake of the book, which was a Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Schwarzenegger.
I love that movie, such a guilty
Yeah.
pleasure. I got Avatar. One I put on the list was the Trey Parker, Matt Stone, and Kendrick Lamar comedy. I have no idea what it's about, but I
Right.
hear Trey Parker and Matt Stone and Kendrick Lamar, and I'm instantly like, day one, I will be there. I will give you all my money.
Yeah.
Mickey 17.
Mhm.
Um, this one probably shouldn't be on the list, but I'm a 90s kid, so Happy Gilmore 2 is gonna be on there.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful more than I think it's gonna actually be
I'm with
good
you.
because
I mean, I
it's Adam
love
Sandler,
everything
but
love everything 90s Sandler, but
yeah,
I don't know. I hope.
yeah, hope. One that you didn't have on your list that I'm definitely looking forward to is Nobody 2 because the
Mhm.
first one just took me by storm. I
That
absolutely
rocked.
love that movie. It was so much fun. That bus fight scene is one of the best
Oh, yeah.
just uh badass sequences ever,
And Christopher
or at least
Lloyd
in
with a
like the last
machine
10
gun
years.
too.
Yeah, he just
Yeah.
he basically just beats that dude to a pulp and then just gives him a tracheotomy so he doesn't die.
Yeah.
It's a pen. Oh, so good. Uh then I got Karate Kid Legends.
Mhm.
More interested than anything on that because I love the
Yeah.
Karate Kid movies. I love the Cobra Kai series, so I really want to see kind of what direction they take that in. And then Death of a Unicorn. I, I don't know if you saw the trailer for that. The Paul Rudd, what's her name? The girl who plays Wednesday. Uh,
Yeah, Jenna Ortega.
Jenna Ortega. Have you seen the trailer for it?
I did not see the trailer. I've heard
Dude,
about the movie,
it looks
but
wild. It looks
yeah.
wild. So I'm definitely. Oh, and then also there's Paul Thomas Anderson's new movie, which
Yeah, is that this year with Leo?
it's supposed to be, yeah, with Leo, and then I think
Yeah.
Guillermo del Toro's in it, and like he's got a wild ass cast. So
Yeah.
anything Paul Thomas Anderson does, I'm in the seat to see it. And
Yeah.
then one thing, I didn't put Fantastic Four on the list because Marvel really has a lot to make up because
Yeah.
they've been so bad. I mean, I
Mhm.
love Deadpool and Wolverine, but I mean, that's not breaking any new ground. That's kind of an established
It's
thing.
almost like not them too, though. Like, that
Yeah,
was
I mean,
already an
that
established
was Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman being like, let's just make a fun bro movie.
like a buddy cop movie, yeah.
Yeah, and it was funny and fun, and I had a blast with it. But the last one is Thunderbolts. I'm actually hearing
Oh,
good things
yeah.
about it,
Yeah,
and the
I'd
trailer
put
was
that on
pretty
mine.
good. So I'll check. I'm excited to see what that one has.
I saw that Sebastian Stan was saying that they, like, went full on practical effects with that too,
Yeah,
so
yeah, it
hopefully it's good. It
looks.
had the trailer had a different vibe for sure. Like,
Yeah, and I
Marvel
think
always
that's
says, like, "This is gonna be different," but that one
yeah,
actually felt like it,
yeah.
so
Well, they say that, and then they put out the Eternals, and they're
oh my
like, "Why
god.
does
That was
everybody hate this
different.
movie?" Yeah, it was different, and it wasn't good.
Yeah, wasn't
So,
good.
all right, man. Well, so before we take off, this has been long, almost 3 hours. Always goes by in a flash when we get to
It
when we get
does.
rolling, dude. So tell me a little bit about what you got coming up, where people can find you, all that jazz.
Yeah, I mean, nothing out of the norm. At least a movie review a week on YouTube, on all social media platforms at Sully
Yeah.
Streams, tweeting to nobody, and
Yeah. Yeah,
so
Twitter's the one where I'm like, I get a lot of interaction on all the platforms except for Twitter. It
yeah.
just falls on deaf ears, but you know what? I have fun there
But
because
yeah, so
that place is the Wild West.
just one review a week of stuff that I'm watching,
Yeah.
ranking video tier list from time to time, but
Yeah.
keep it pretty simple.
You should do a
But
Ridley
yeah,
Scott one, man. I'd be
I
more than
should.
interested to see
I
that.
should do a Ridley Scott one.
Yeah.
I
I
was
think I
thinking about
saw
doing it after Gladiator 2, but he has so many movies,
I know, dude. I think I saw Sean Chandler did like a Ridley Scott ranking list and he ranked all his movies. I was like, Godspeed, bro. I don't have time
Dude,
for that. I
so
don't think
many, so many.
Yeah, but I think you should do like a top 10 or something. Really, it's gotta be
Yeah.
interested.
Yeah, I might
Interested to
have
see
to.
that because I'm sure you have some on there where people will be like, I never even heard of that movie.
Yeah.
Ridley Scott's a gem.
He is, he really is.
Yeah, so I mean that was it for today. Yeah, thanks for joining, man. First
Of
guest we got on
course.
here. I'm hopeful we could get you back maybe for the Oscars pre-show. You go over
Yeah.
a little bit what we think is going to happen there. And I don't you may feel differently than me. I really don't care.
This
I'm
might
like,
be like I've cared less more and more as
yeah,
the years go on, and I have not even seen the majority of the Oscar predicted
always.
nominated movies.
Yeah.
So
I've gotten to the point where I respect the actors who just take roles because they know it's fun and it's like stuff that the fans want to see. Like I know Frank Grillo gets a lot of shit, but like I saw him in an interview once and he was like, he goes, I know they're never gonna give me an award. So I just want to do movies that like I want to do. I'm like,
I
that's what
love Frank
I
Grillo.
like stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And have you seen the werewolves movie?
I have not yet actually.
I mean, it's super B grade movie,
Yeah.
but it's a ton of fun. All the effects are practical, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just like it was like did you ever see Dog Soldiers?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I know it's
it
kind
had
of
elements
similar.
of
Yeah.
that versus meets up with like The Purge.
Yeah.
So, yeah, everybody's got the gene in them that can turn them into a werewolf, and
Mhm.
it happens one day a year when the moon hits a certain spot. So it's like it's fun, man. Shit goes
Yeah.
awry, lots of gun battles, lots of ridiculous gore, very 80s, 90s practical effects werewolf movie. So, but Sully, man, I can't thank you enough for hopping on. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm always checking out your stuff. So,
I love it, dude.
um,
Likewise. Thank you for
yeah,
having me
well,
on here.
of course, dude. Of course. So yeah, guys, be sure to go out there, check out Sully's things. He's a friend of the channel. If you're not familiar with him, you're probably going to get accustomed to him because we chat all the time and we like to hop on each other's shows from time to time. So, Sully, take it easy, my man.
You too, brother.
Thanks, man. Later.